Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi, and I'm here with Armin Navabi. Armin, how are you? I have to ask you this every time. I know you're okay.
Yeah, I know.
You're okay?
I'm
So-
okay. I'm okay. Yeah.
Right.
I'll let you know if ever I'm not okay. I'll just
You'll
let you
volunteer
know.
the information?
Yeah.
So,
okay.
yeah. Right. So I wanted to, before we start today's episode, and this is going to be it's going to be a really fun episode, especially for all of us. I wanted to talk to you guys about, we do have a website now. It's called secularjihadist.com. When you go there, you can get linked to our Patreon page. If you go to Patron, we're actually doing something new right now. We have a goal of getting 500 patrons. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, literally. You can choose the options to do that. If you go on, and if we get to 500 patrons, we're going to be able to take on our next venture. Our next venture is to, we have a lot of listenership in Muslim majority countries. So we want to translate a lot of our episodes into Arabic, into Urdu, Farsi, Gujarati, all kinds of different languages. Bengali, Malay,
yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of different languages. We've got people we know who can do it. There are people who are willing to do it, but we're going to need your help. So if you are listening to this, if you enjoy the podcast, if you like what you get, and if you get some value out of it, do consider please going to patreon.com or secularjihadist.com, looking for us and signing up as a patron. So
yeah, I already
just wanted to say that ahead of time.
I already found somebody with a really good translation team, and what they do is that they translate the videos with a very good price, and they give you the transcript, and also they give you the SRT files, so I don't have to go through so many different processes. So I could just upload that to the videos right as soon as so we're going to identify which videos are going to be the best ones to translate, and we're going to just upload the SRT. First we're going to start with Arabic, then we're going to decide which language we're going to do next, and we're going to upload it on our video. So yeah, we're going to get a global audience. We already have a global audience, but for example, we have a lot of downloads from Egypt, but it's only people in Egypt that speak English, right? So it would be great if we could go beyond that and reach more people.
That's the plan. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. And for everybody already supporting us, that's great. If you can't support us, that's perfectly fine. We still want you. Share, give us a rating on iTunes, wherever you listen to it, and it'll just get the word out there. And so far, it's been going amazing. This has been an incredible year. So in any case, let's start with this episode. So we actually haven't covered this topic, Armin, which is interesting because both Armin and I are from Shia Muslim backgrounds, and we're both ex-Shia Muslims. So we thought that we'd talk about this today and explain this to a lot of you because many of you have been asking. And for that, we have the perfect guest, and I'm going to introduce her now.
And talk about timing as well, being Ashura.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was Ashura. Actually, at the time of this recording, it was Ashura, which is a Shia Muslim mourning ritual that we're going to get into in a bit. So this is probably the right time to talk about this. And we've got Zahra. Zahra is a member of the Khoja Shia Ithnasheri Jamaat. This is a specific group of Shias that's actually a very prominent Shia Muslim community across the Indian subcontinent, East Africa, Canada, and London. Zahra was born in
North America.
In North America,
like the US as well, a big chunk.
Yeah, huge. So there is, and I'm actually very familiar with them because we, especially at this time of the year, because I'm in Canada and we have a lot of them. So Zahra is actually currently in Australia, but you were born in Tanzania, right?
Yes. Yep, so, that is correct.
Yeah, and you grew up in a Shia household, Shia community like us, and then you left Islam, and now you're an ex-Muslim.
Yes. So I'll talk a little bit about my journey, just in a nutshell, without getting into it. So I lived in Tanzania until I was 16. I moved to Malaysia. I was in Malaysia for about 3.5 years. Then I moved to Australia in 2012. So I've been in Australia ever since. And yeah, it's been a gradual process coming out of Islam, and especially from the Shia community, not just the religion itself. The community is interesting, but we can get into it as we move forward.
Yeah, so that's good. And we're going to hear more of your story too. Okay, so let's just start with one thing, because we have a general audience. We've had some recent episodes on the history of Islam in general, about, Muhammad, about the Quran, but Shia Islam, especially in Muharram, everybody's seeing those pictures of people hitting themselves and with blades and the self-flagellation, and they're wondering what it's all about. Yeah, Hussein. Yeah, so they're wondering what it's all about. So we're gonna start with a little 101 on Shiaism, right? So, yeah. Armin, do you want to start with it, or
just really quickly going through it? Okay, so when Muhammad died, some tensions between people that were closest to him started showing up even bigger than, like, it was already there when Muhammad was alive, but then obviously when he died, because he didn't have a son, there was some internal conflict between his family and other people regarding who's going to be the leader of.
So it was Islam. A successorship. It was a thing about who's going to be the successor.
It's kind of It was kind of like Game of Thrones, but on steroids. Yeah, so without the dragon.
On steroids.
Yeah, I know.
But it was actually, the stories are very interesting. But
that's the end of the podcast, guys. Game of Thrones on steroids. That's Shiism. See you next time.
Yeah. But just we could get it. I don't know how much. We don't want to get into too much details, but just when it comes to the difference between Shias and Sunnis, the initial difference was the opinion on who should be the leader, right? And this difference was basically not a theological difference to begin with, was just basically was basically the disagreement on who we should follow after Muhammad, right? But throughout the years, because these people turned into different groups and became separated from each other, their perception of Islam and their ideology started changing as well. That was not initially the case, but then it turned into two separate branches of Islam. Another thing is to note that initially it wasn't seen as Shia Islam or Sunni Islam. It was just people that considered this person to be leader and people that considered the other person to be leader. And then it turned into sects and different ideologies later on. Like, even during the time that these people were alive, they didn't consider themselves to be starting a new sect at all. I don't know if you want to get into theological differences, but the main problem, so just a quick summary, after Muhammad died, according to Sunnis, the Rashidun, the rightfully guided ones, are the people that started leading the Ummah, the community of the Muslim community.
The four caliphs.
The four caliphs, which is Abu Bakr, Umar, Osman, and the final one being Ali. Ali being what the Shias considered the person that should have been from the very beginning, not the fourth Khalifa. He should have been the first one. He should have been the ruler after Muhammad, and so they consider him the first Imam. And Imam Ali's sons to be the second and third Imam, going all the way to, according, there are different branches of Shiism, but the most common one goes all the way to the 12th Imam, which is the hidden Imam, the guy that he fell down the well and now he's hidden and he's supposed to come at the end of the time and save the whole humanity.
Okay. You're going really, really quick.
I feel like this is what you read out, that you were taught in school, and you're like, I'm going to read it all out.
Yeah. But the very basics are just that after there was a successorship issue after Muhammad, the Sunnis went with the four caliphs. And the Shias decided that they wanted to go with Ali. The word Shia comes from Shi'at al-Ali, which means the followers of Ali, who was a fourth caliph. And he was also the son-in-law and the cousin of Muhammad. Right. So there was an element of family as well. The Shias also sort of believed that it should come from the family, a blood relative of the Prophet. And so the sources of a lot of the difference in ideology is because of the sources of hadith. For the Sunnis, it's the Sahaba and the people who were companions of Muhammad. For the Shia, it is the family of Muhammad and all of his descendants.
Two more quick points. There's differences in theology and also differences in practice. The summary of differences in theology is that many Sunnis think Shias are mushriks, they're heretics because they are partner to gods, because they worship to the imams, they pray to the imams, they pray towards them, they kiss their shrines, they call their name when they need help. So many Sunnis think that that's blasphemy because the only thing divine is Allah. And then, kind of like how Protestants look at Catholics and they're like, why are you praying to saints? That doesn't make sense. The only God is only Jesus, and that's about it. So kind of similar to that. And Shias look at Sunnis and they're like, well, you missed half of Islam because when Muhammad on his last migration to pilgrimage to Mecca, to Kaaba, he basically told all Muslims that everybody that follows Ali, everybody that follows me should follow Ali. And he thinks that they say that Muhammad brought two things for Muslims. One is his book, one is the Quran, and the other one is the Ahlul Bayt, which was his family, which Muslims were supposed to follow after he died. And the Sunnis missed one half of all of Islam because they didn't follow Muhammad's family, which is Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein after Muhammad died.
Yeah. So
and
Zahra,
I'll also add in, and also the conflict between was it Umar and Fatima, like
yes,
the daughter,
right
after the Prophet died.
Mm-hmm.
So it was and Shias then also go on cursing them, and I think the Sunnis are divided. They don't even know that they're being cursed. There are a lot of du'as and recitals that we have that have a lot of cursing to all the killers, and Umar being one of them.
Right. So a lot of Shias actually believe that Umar was responsible for the death of Muhammad's only surviving daughter. Fatima.
It was an accident though, right? Like he opened the door, slammed the door.
They don't think it was an accident.
They kicked the door down and she was standing behind because they were going to come after Ali. She was standing behind, she was pregnant, and I think both of them died,
No.
Yeah.
Fatima didn't die. Her son died immediately, apparently, but she died a few days after. And right. So okay. She had two sons, Hassan, Hussein, and I think the son that she had in her belly at that time was supposed to be Mohsen, if he was born.
Mohsen, yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she essentially had a miscarriage, and she died 6 months after Muhammad did. So the only progeny of Muhammad surviving were her sons, who were Hassan and Hussein. So, right. And that's where the whole Muharram thing comes in.
Well, Hussein. Okay, so
let's get. Zara, do you want to tell the Hussein story since you're just kind of sitting there? I know you want to talk.
I like the refresher that I'm getting from this as well.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So the Hassan and Hussein part is the one that the Sunnis and the Shias have a major conflict on.
Hussein mostly. Hassan is
apart from the caliphs.
Yeah.
He is.
Nobody cares about Hassan.
A power play. Yes, a power play did start from Hassan, Muawiyah, and then Yazid, and which brings us to Muharram, right? The 1 month that people that Sunnis value, but not as much as Shias commemorate about it. And they get, I see the whole thing as a very barbaric act. So basically, the big thing that I was brought up to believe as a Shia, and I think you guys would have too, is Muharram is important. The tragedy of Karbala is the most important thing that as a Shia you should believe in. Hands down, not in the death of the Prophet, it has to be Muharram and Karbala. And I've been to Karbala, actually. I've been to Iraq.
Oh, wow, you have?
And it was a little... I have. I've also been to Syria. I went to Iran as well. I traveled a lot around the Middle East because my parents are religious. Wow. And it was, well, one, I was really young when I went to Syria, and it was a little barbaric that people were mourning for a death or a tragedy that happened 1,400 years ago over political power, right? And greed. And, people are cutting themselves to punish themselves or feel the pain.
Right.
And they say it makes them feel peaceful. So
Yeah,
that was one of the comments.
I had to pretend. Did you guys have to pretend to cry? I had to pretend to cry in school.
Yeah, pretend. You had to cry.
Yeah.
And I had to pretend to cry, but I'm like, either I'm emotionless, I don't see the point in it.
Right.
And I did, like, wearing black was always my thing. But
Hey,
getting more colorful
Muharram,
now.
I'm still wearing black. Yeah.
I thought I'd wear white, and I thought I put on makeup because you're not allowed to. So, you know,
I'm wearing makeup too.
School. Okay, I'm glad. Armin, sorry, you're in the makeup group.
Yeah.
So the Muharram part is something that really, well, it was very dear to me until recently. A few years ago, I guess. Only because I was indoctrinated to think that way, that Muharram is so important. So I had to go to Karbala. Like, I begged my dad, I'm like, can you pay for my flights and take me to Karbala? This was back in 2015. And I went there, and just little by little, I just started distancing myself because of what I saw, kissing the shrines, praying to them, people having dolls in the shrine. I like, especially on the ladies' side, because the dolls in the shrines are like, oh, we want like Sakina, who is the daughter of Hussein, so great granddaughter of Muhammad. You know, the whole thing was like, oh, she was slapped and she was beaten, she was tortured, and they have this doll. So they have this doll saying, oh, I want a daughter like Sakina, or Ali was a baby who was shot down, which that story I think is ridiculous, and I'll just get into it really quickly. The tragedy happened, and there were 72 people from Hussein's army, and Yazid's army was about 1,000, over 1,000. The 72 people included his family, the kids, and the women. Go on. Can
we just give a background to this? So Hussein is the grandson of Muhammad, and his father and his brother has died. He's there, and he's the Shia in the story, even though back then they were not called Shias, they were called Shiatul Ali. But he went to war against Yazid, which was the Sunni leader of his time. And he had only
Umayyad Caliph.
And he had only 72 men. He was supposed to get recruits from Kufa, but they didn't show up. So basically he faced a giant army with only 72 men. And him and all his people were like slaughtered. And this event is what built Shia Islam. Like this is why Hussein, like the martyrdom of Hussein has made Hussein more important to Shias. I know they would deny this, but to Shias, Hussein is more important than Muhammad and more important than God himself. And this story of Hussein is more important to Shias than any stories of Muhammad. And going to Karbala, which is where Hussein died, is more important to Shias than going to Kaaba, than going to Mecca. Like getting
that is correct.
Yeah.
So so one of the things here is that this story is actually looked at as a metaphor for, it's almost like kind of like the Jesus on the cross, where
it is.
He essentially sacrificed himself for the better of the Ummah, for the better of the Muslims, because the Yazid, who was the Umayyad Caliph at the time, you know, he had a monkey as a pet. He used to drink wine. He had forgotten the message of Muhammad. Apparently, he had completely rejected true Islam, and you know, he does sound quite a bit like an asshole from, you know, when you read history. But at the same time, what he did was, Hussein was trying to stand up for the message of his grandfather, who was Muhammad, and he was brutally slaughtered along with his entire family in Karbala, where they were essentially blocked from water. They were on their way to Kufa to lead a sort of a rebellion against Yazid, the Umayyad Caliph in Damascus, and they were blocked by Yazid's army on the way near the rivers in Iraq, the Tigris, Euphrates. I can't remember exactly which one, and they were essentially they weren't given any water for 3 days. This is what the story is. And when they tried to go out and get the water, they were all slaughtered. And that is this ultimate sacrifice. That is the whole Jesus. So
unwanted visits.
Sorry, that was room service. That was room service.
That's okay.
Service is important.
Yeah.
So and just in time, just when I was getting to the whole family getting slaughtered.
Yeah, I mean, the stories are kind of sad. Like, there's a part, I mean, they're very sad. There was a part that Hussein takes a baby, like, holds it on, like,
6-month-old child.
Say, would you deny this baby water? And there's an arrow hits the baby. And there's a part where when eventually they cut off Hussein's head off and they roll it in front of Yazid's feet. And even Yazid starts crying. I didn't know that Yazid starts crying. They told that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, they took that because they wanted Yazid to be fully evil.
Yeah, the big asshole was Shimmer. He was like the general of Yazid, right? So he kind of apparently went overboard. So Yazid was like, if I was there, I wouldn't let this happen, because Hussein really looked like Muhammad. So people, whenever they saw him, they would remember Muhammad. And also people said, like, when they saw his face when beheaded, like, I remember when Hussein was a child and Muhammad used to kiss this face. And these stories, like, really, they have really good, there's so many little pieces of what happened that day.
I know. I was
sad.
Just like,
right.
I mean, it's really sad, but then the thing is that people make it sad. Like, there have been so many tragedies in the world for people who've done a lot more. But then, like, look at the logic behind it. And that's what really pisses me off. Right. Regardless of what happened, why would you take a baby at a field? Like, why? Like, why would you even take your family out there and not even let the women fight? Like, it makes no logical sense. Like, would you now take your family to Syria or anywhere where there are bombs and they go like, hey, we're to fight you, and then still expect a better outcome? Like,
yeah, but they would say that
just take it.
But they would say that they were besieged, so it was an unexpected thing. So they're on the way going to Kufa, right? And then they're going to Kufa. They're blocked at the river. They're surrounded by the army, and they said that basically we're going to kill all of you guys, and we're not going to give you any water.
You're right. I've heard that point of view, but I don't think so, because Muhammad. There was a story about Muhammad talking to Hussein, and he told them about the death, and then they all knew about it. They all kind of knew what was going to happen. Like, they didn't know how, but they all knew. That's why people, there was a story where Hussein turns off the light, and is like, if you want to leave, then you leave, because whatever's going to happen next.
And they don't leave.
So I feel like, and some of them left, actually. Yeah. Some of them stayed. And like, so they knew it was going that way. So I don't see that there was much surprise there.
But they also knew that they were going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, they kind of knew that. Like, that. This is what's illogical to me about it isn't that as much. I mean, that I can imagine in a situation of war. But what to me seems strange is that it's such a tragedy when they say that, God showed Hussein heaven. So he knew that he was going to be in paradise. Basically, right when he died, right when his entire family died, they would go from like a shitty, really hot world where they didn't have water to an eternity of bliss. So when you have that kind of transition, death isn't death. I
want to defend Zahra's position. By the way, Zahra is Muhammad's daughter. Is Muhammad's daughter's name, by the way. So.
Yeah, and Ali is Muhammad's son-in-law's name.
Oh, so yeah, we have the whole
so bad.
We have the whole Ahlul Bayt here.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay.
Would you like to change your name to Hussein? Just saying.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I'll be Hussein for this episode.
Obama's middle name is Hussein. So.
Oh yeah. But to defend Zahra's position, like, okay, so they thought that they're going to have a lot more people, because everybody in Kufa said, like, yes, they sent Hussein so many letters telling him that if you just come to Kufa, we will join your army and we will fight Yazid. And then when he got there, none of them joined. So people were like, well, it's not his fault. They didn't join. Yeah, but they had a chance to retreat, right? And the thing is that Hussein gave them the chance, like anybody Hussein said, we're all going to die. But if you want to leave. And 72 of them decided to stay. But here's the part of the story that is not in the details, right? There were 72 men that decided to stay, right? Did they ask all the women? And was this decision made for the women and the children?
Wasn't it all of them? I thought it was all of them.
72
I thought it was all of them. Oh, really?
It was
I thought it was including them.
Well, the babies, okay, I think it was 72 fighting men, right? And I think that, you don't count women. Women don't count in Islam. But...
hey, listen, what about the 72? 72, okay, that's a really...
Look it up.
Maybe they're related.
And also the children, like, you don't get to make a decision like that for children if you know everybody's gonna fucking die. Like, I don't know.
You're right. There were 72 martyrs. 72
yes.
From what I understand, they did leave his sick daughter, one of his sick daughter, who's also named Fatima, at home. Back before they even went for Kufa. And they took some of them because they wanted to go, apparently. But like, who would say no? Like, my dad's going to die. I will join him anyway because he's doing it for the right thing. I mean, why would I just want to be here? You know, it's that emotional blackmail that we face right now in this day and age as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But Zain al-Abidin was also there, the fourth, you know, but he was 6 and he was a kid, so they didn't kill him, right?
He couldn't fight. But why weren't the women allowed to fight? Like, it's funny because when I talk about Aisha getting married, and just going a bit on a tangent, getting married at 6, people are also like, oh, but like she was a warrior and she fought soon after she got married. I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
Technically, she didn't fight. She was just on a red camel telling people what to do. She wasn't like holding a sword or anything like that.
Yeah, but like, then why were the women allowed? Like, when did we start repressing women's rights? Has it always been that way, or has it been happening over time and continuing?
Well,
no, it was right. It was right from the beginning. This is Arabia in the 7th century. I mean, Islam or not, of course, you're not going to have women.
No, Ali, but people said, but during Muhammad, but during Muhammad,
go on.
Oh, sorry, you go on. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm good.
No, I'm just saying during Muhammad, women used to fight, but after Muhammad, they stopped fighting for some reason. I think it was Omar.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just progressively got worse and worse. Like, women's rights, like, dissolved. Basically, it was inexistent. Or, you know, how people still go like, no, but women have more rights. And I'm like, no, I'm a women's rights activist. And every Muslim that says that women have more rights in Islam, or even have rights in Islam, right, I think they're just delusional. And like, it's also Linda Sarsour who fights for, like, you know, it's interesting. I'm not going to get into it, but feminism and Islam are just two things that can't go along. And it's sad to see that a lot of women still support that. Like, they're like, no, of course they can. They just have a spin to everything. The one thing that I have been focusing on the past month was putting up posts showing that women are oppressed in Islam. If that's not your reality, some people live by it. There's some people who are not allowed to leave their houses without men. There's some people who have to cover themselves. There's some people who are being, like, I think it's Albania, where, you know, the culture, but Islam also allows it, where you can hate your wives.
Right.
And whenever I put that thing out there, people are like, no, like, how can you hit somebody that would hurt with something as a feather? And I'm like, but why would you even have it exist?
Right.
Yeah, a feather isn't really hitting.
It's gonna tickle. Yeah, that's why I say the verse is actually saying tickle your wife, not hit your wife.
Yeah,
because they always bring the feather or the toothbrush thing. But here's the thing. But I don't want to. So whenever people talk about Islam and women, it's just, I think Islam is so obviously anti-woman that I feel weird to even have to argue that position.
I wouldn't say it's anti-women. It definitely for women as slaves.
But that makes it anti-women.
It's like, I don't women, but like, who are you going to have sex with and procreate with?
Well,
so, you know.
Well, being for women, I mean, I would say that being
that is our purpose in Islam. You know, that's the women's purpose, really.
Well, that's anti-woman by definition.
That sounds pretty anti-woman.
Anyway, yeah, okay.
I think she's being facetious. But Armin, I just wanted to, for both of you guys, I wanted to read out something from the Nahj al-Balagha. So the Nahj al-Balagha is a very sacred book that is supposedly a collection of
second
all
only
of
to the Quran for Shias.
Yeah. So it is a collection of all of Ali's sermons. So Ali is the fourth caliph for Sunni Islam. He's the first imam for Shia Islam, the Prophet's son-in-law, and his cousin. And he said this after the Battle of Jamal concerning women and their shortcomings. This is Sermon 80. O people, women are deficient in faith, deficient in shares, and deficient in intelligence.
Holy shit, Ali said that?
You don't know this?
No, I don't. Ali is
I'm reading out Sermon 80 from Nahj al-Balagha, part 1, the sermons.
Interesting. I did not know
after the Battle of Jamal. So I just hear me out. I'll read the whole thing. It's not that long. O women, not all women, all people. I'm already reading it wrong. Okay, women are deficient in faith, deficient in shares, and deficient in intelligence. As regards the deficiency in their faith, it is their abstention from prayers and fasting during their menstrual period. As regards deficiency in their intelligence, it is because the evidence of 2 women is equal to that of 1 man. As for the deficiency of their shares, that is because of their share in inheritance being half of men. So beware the evils of women. Be on your guard, even from those of them who are reportedly good. Do not obey them, even in good things, so that they may not attract you to evils. So that's
that's Ali. Holy fuck!
I'm gonna jump in. This is my favorite part. I know this is a bit tangent away from Shiism, but so it's funny how I posted this up as facts. I'm like, this is what the Quran says about inheritance. It exists. It happens. This is what they say about women as witnesses. And it was so surprising to me that, a friend of mine, he'd gone to university. I thought she was independent and everything. She's married to Pakistani. And now she's like, yeah, the same thing what you said, like she had justifications for it. Like, that men are the head of the family and it's their responsibility to provide for the family. And I'm like, what century are you in? Like, in terms of income, I've always wanted to earn. I want a house husband, but I've always wanted to earn more than my partner. Like, I've wanted to be the head of the house, and I work really hard for that. But like, it doesn't have to fall on the male. Like, why? It's a partnership. It's togetherness. Why does the man have to take more charge? Like, why does the man have more rights? And the whole thing about emotional fluctuations when making decisions at witnesses. And I'm like, men PMS too. There's a science about it. That doesn't, like, only because you have your periods, it doesn't affect your decision making. Yes, you're moody, but, it doesn't really affect the decisions that you make. And I, like, the person that I am, usually I'm the one who makes more decisions anyway. I'm headstrong. So when people tell this to me, I just get surprised all around. And I'm like, how are you even...
Yeah, there's another...
Don't let me interrupt you. If I'm interrupting you, like, tell me, like, because... Tell me to, no, I need to finish. Okay?
Yeah.
So...
It gives me time to have my bites as well.
Okay. So, no, but the thing is that the conclusion is way worse than the premise. The premise is like, well, men are responsible for bringing in money and working, and women are responsible for taking care of the household stuff. Like they were like, okay, I mean, you could switch around gender roles if you wanted to, but I guess you're gonna make that claim. But then you're like, okay, and the conclusion is that you can beat your wife. Like, what? No. Like I think focusing on the fact that they're talking about gender roles is less of an issue compared to the fact that the conclusion of what the gender roles are is that you could actually beat your wife. I think that's the highlight here. No?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, go on.
I think. Yeah, I would say they're both equally as. Violence is one, but to me, they're both equally as important. There are both terrible things, and I understand the whole wife beating thing. It's just, even if it's like, when people go like, but they say strike her with a miswak or a feather, that doesn't hurt. And I'm like, but why does it exist in the first place?
Why strike her? Like, what?
How is it empowering? Like, why does this even exist? Why do I have to obey my husband? Like, what world do we live in? And I also have, people telling me, the marriage of Aisha at a young age, they're like, it was okay at that time. And I'm like, and you consider your prophets and your imams to be infallibles. Shouldn't they have known that it would have an impact after? That people are still using his examples, because you have to live by the sunnah to marry young women. It's just so... It's so upsetting.
There's a pervasive thing. Yeah, there's a pervasive thing, actually, throughout all of this stuff. Like, if you look at, and I always give the example of the Mother Mary, in with the Virgin Mary, and that's in Christianity, and she's also very, very revered in Islam. She's the only, as Armin pointed out last time, the only woman mentioned by name in the Quran. So only one woman mentioned by name in the Quran, and that is Maryam, or the mother of Jesus.
The only statue that Muhammad did not break when he reached Kaaba.
Right. And so this woman, the only woman mentioned in the Quran by name, what is she famous for? She's famous for just being a virgin, never being touched by a man. Like the idea that she was, because she wasn't touched by a man, that's why her birth was pure. It was immaculate. She was innocent. She was chaste. As if, and she was modest, as if she had ever been touched by a man, then she would be impure and unchaste and not innocent.
It must have been an extraordinary painful birth, given that
this entire thing is it's a fetishization.
Have sections then.
Yeah.
No, I mean the biggest two religions in the world are essentially born of a fetishization of Mary's vagina, because everything, all of her honor, everything was there. That determined whether she was worthy of anything or not. And that is the underlying mentality behind modesty culture, behind rape culture, behind even stuff like FGM, that, we have to, curb a woman's sexuality. So there are these roots that are so deep that all of this stuff isn't surprising. I mean, you mentioned the period thing, the menstruation. The Quran, Surah 2, verse 222, it says, and they ask you about menstruation, say it is harm. So keep away from your wives during menstruation. Menstruation is a disease according to the Quran. According to the Quran, it's harm.
And it's crazy, right? That is womanhood. That is science and biology. Where you are, if you want to have kids, if you're fit enough to have kids, you will be bleeding. And it's crazy how we consider it to be impure. Like, I'm glad that I didn't have to pray. I mean, that was my best part. But it was, and fast, yes. I never really fasted because, I didn't mind not eating. I didn't really care. But it was mostly the whole praying while not eating. Otherwise, your fast is invalid. So I never really prayed for a long time. I was forced into it. Was mostly this emotional blackmails that came along with, but how can you fast? And I'm like, well, I'm starving. Isn't that good enough? Why do I have to be guilted into praying? And you're right about the whole women thing. It's just, it's blown out of proportion when it comes to women's rights. Like it doesn't exist. A lot of people still use it and undermine women, even if they go like, no, but women in my country are allowed to do this. They don't even wear hijab. I think it was one of the comments when you posted up. They don't even wear hijab. And I'm like, there's a difference between them not wearing hijab and choosing to wear. Like there's, a lot of people think that it's a choice, but it's actually not. It's this biases that we have where we are like, oh, but she decided to wear it on her own, or she wants to wear it. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Does anybody outside Islam just decide to cover their hair the way Muslims do, and then their hands? Like, that is called a choice, right? When you're not answering to a God, thinking that, hey, I'm respected because I'm listening, that my God wants me to cover. It's not a choice then. It's never a choice.
This is a question about choices overall, because I think that whenever I talk to reformers, a lot of the reform Muslims, they keep on saying they believe in like banning these, like ban the hijab, ban the burqa and everything. And I always tell them, I'm like, I can't think that way. They're like, why wouldn't you think that? It's a symptom of subjugation and of self-oppression. And I was telling them, I'm like, because I'm an atheist, I look at religion that way. I think anybody who chooses to believe in a religion would be part of the same kind of thing. So we can't start banning that. I mean, there's so many self-oppressive things that people do.
Yeah, but like, there is a part of me that thinks that, yes, it should be banned, but at the same time, regardless of what it is, we're still we're doing the same thing, taking away people's rights. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, no,
I think there should come into, I think the best thing we can do is educate them. But once you start banning it,
well, the niqab though. What about the niqab?
People want what?
What about the niqab though? Should that be banned?
I would agree that, yes, I would. I definitely think that I find the whole thing oppressive, but I definitely think that there should be there's security things. There are times that men have used the niqab to commit terrorist acts or violent acts. It's not unheard of. And helmets as well, right? So any face covering in public places should.
I think that because of the security thing, Like, this is where I differ. I think it should be regulated, like not for kids, not in places where you require security, nothing like that. But just because I actually personally know at least two women, both of them who are white converts to Islam, who very proudly took on the burqa, and they're trying to out burqa all of the burqa women too. So that happens with converts sometimes. But in any case, so for them, like they actually came from a non-Muslim position, and then they became Muslims, and then they took on the burqa, and as in they're doing it by choice. So it's a stupid choice, but I think that freedom gives you the freedom means the freedom to make stupid choices as well.
So just one thing on converts, and I'll relate it back to banning hijabs. When I was talking or understanding why there was a rise of people converting to Islam, it was after 9/11. Yeah. It went up, and I was like, I didn't understand why. So I read up on it, and there was an interesting part where people went like, but everybody is blaming Muslims for it, so why are they? And then they started reading more about it. I think it was just a rebellion phase, and they started converting, and some of them have converted and left it again. But that was one thing where, when you project more hate on it, people are just going to be, curious, and I think the weaker ones are just going to go like, oh, but like maybe there's something about Islam, and the hate that they're facing, that we should be out there and practice it anyway. It's it's a little stupid. But that also goes to burqa ban. The more you project the ban on it, not the niqab or anything, the more people will want to do it.
Yeah. But let's go back to Shia stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So Muskil is saying, what the fuck is wrong with the person that wrote that? Talking about Ali. By the way, did we mention to people Ali was basically the Hussein's father? So this was a bit before Hussein, right? And he's, I think, the second most revered person in the Shia. So I think this is a hierarchy according to Shias. The hierarchy should be Allah is more important than everything, then Muhammad, then Ali. Nobody gives a shit about Hassan. And then Hussein. Fatima is also there for people that want to.
Actually, the Ismailis don't even. He's not even in the sequence of Ismail. Right. He's not even an imam for the Ismailis.
So the hierarchy, if the logical, quote unquote, logical hierarchy would be Allah, Muhammad, Ali, then Hussein. But it's the exact other way around. So Hussein is the most important figure to Shias. Then Ali above Muhammad. And I know they would deny this, but you can't. Actions speak louder than words. Then Muhammad, and then lastly Allah. So Ali.
So I would agree. I'm going to disagree a little bit just from my personal experience. Now, my personal experience is that I think that Ali is really the top of everything. Like, and from what I've seen among the Shia community that I came up with,
the Ya Ali Madad thing.
Ya Ali Madad and all that. I mean, the Hussein thing takes precedence. He becomes God essentially during Muharram. But
the emotional
the rest of the
reverence of Hussein cannot. Ali comes close, but
it doesn't. But it is concentrated within this amount of time. But the bigger thing overall, when it comes to everything else, how to eat and how to go to the bathroom and how to do this, how to do that.
That is very like Najul Balaga. Yes. Yeah, definitely. That is true. It's I think a lot of it is different places, different upbringings, right? But, while we overlap a lot in like the foundations of it, there are some people that will emphasize more on Ali, some people on Hussein, and some people on Mahdi. And,
That's a lot of choices. It's a great menu. It's cafeteria of
James is saying Ali would say Ali's at the top. So you're biased.
Oh, there you go. So I've got a name privilege.
Yeah. But I agree the rules and stuff.
Are you streaming the video as well?
Yeah.
Huh?
Are you streaming the video as well?
Yeah,
we're streaming the video.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm sorry, guys. I'm hungry as well. So
it's
I'm just going to
go for it. It's all right. It's all good.
But here's the thing. Yeah, the rules and the stuff comes from Ali, but Hussein is Shia's Islam's Jesus. He's the person that sacrificed himself for the sins of betraying him, and he saved humanity because he's so much like Jesus, and he basically defined it was through Hussein that Shias got their identity. So with Ali, they got okay, this is how we need to be, but with Hussein is Hussein's story and martyrdom brought martyrdom to Shia Islam. Brought the idea that Shias are always prosecuted to Shia Islam. The sense of identity of being Shia comes from Hussein. So, but the rules. Go on. Sorry.
I'm just going to relate it back to Muharram and Ashura, and the 10 days that we cry and grieve and hurt ourselves and try killing ourselves in different ways.
You have teachers beating you up if you're not crying.
By the way, I'm just saying.
I know. People in the mosque look at you and you laugh, and I'm like, I'm sorry. Happiness is important to me.
Yeah. There are going to be a lot of people, before you go on, Zara, there are going to be some people in the audience who are going to dispute some of this a little bit. And so what we're talking about here is Ithna-Asheri Shia. Ithnash means 12 in Arabic. So they're the people who believe in the 12 imams. There's another group. Yeah. There's another group that actually split off after 6 imams. They're called the Ismailis. They're divided into...
The original Shias, because, Ismailis were more popular at some time than 12ers. Yeah, but go on.
Right. I mean, there's a whole assassins. Anyway, we're not going to get into that right now. Yeah. I want to actually discuss that with Abdullah Samir when he's on the program. He was originally Ismaili, right? So anyway... I'm
actually going to be on his podcast at some point as well.
He's fantastic. So the Ismailis, they actually don't mourn. They don't believe in mourning any of this stuff. So
they're cool people. They're kind of cool. They're chill. They have music and stuff. I was not allowed to listen to music.
My wife is actually from an Ismaili background, and we still go to some of their things, and it's actually a lot of fun.
It's a party, and it's nice,
parties,
and they're a good, strong community because they're like Jews. They always support each other.
I was just gonna say they're like the Jews.
They support each other. They bring people up. Like if they don't have jobs, they'll find them jobs. They're pretty cool. And it's like a community based. And it's just that it's not about who you know or anything. It's like as a community, like the Jews do when you move to Israel, someone's going to find you a house, somebody's going to find you a job. And that's what I really admire about Judaism, like just the community when I was in Israel working there. It was just really nice.
Yeah, but still need to be called out on their bullshit no matter how nice they are.
Oh, no, of course. Of course.
That goes without saying. But what I was saying is that there is a difference.
Had a cooler Islamic upbringing than I did.
Yeah. But that is one of the groups that is actually different that don't believe in the morning, and they're also Shia. But for them, Ali is at the top. It's like Ali is.
Have you guys heard this? Ali is the essence of God. Have you guys heard that?
I have. I have heard that. Yeah.
I mean, the reason I married my wife is because I love the way she said Ali, Ali, Ali all the time. So,
anyway. That's great. That was great.
Like, especially when they say Mawla Ali.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, my mind just went somewhere else.
Okay.
Mawla Ali.
Anyway. So just
just to help with that imagery, you should tell her that when you're having sex to just yell "Ya Ali." Ali. Yeah.
How is this going? Guys, abort.
You brought it up.
Brought it up. Another pun? Like, seriously? Okay, guys. Okay. Anyway, we're going to...
Not intended.
I know. Okay, guys.
Maybe we can step up on sex.
Yeah. That's anyway. So it's okay. When she was here, when she was on this podcast, she started with it immediately. That's exactly what she started talking about. So, anyway, guys. So Zara, tell us. You're from the Khoja Ithnasheri community, right?
Yeah. So
tell us about that.
I'm the first one. Well, before we get into it, I'm the first one speaking out, let alone being a woman. And a lot of people have reached out, and I thought this was important to do this podcast because, one, not a lot of people are speaking out. There are so many ex-Muslims. I know them, but I can't out them because
in the Khoja community.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't like there are more people in denial. There are more people who are apologists. There are more people who try to preach Islam as a peaceful thing or have cover-ups and sugarcoating like every other Muslim. But so I'll tell you a bit more about the community. So we're brown people in Africa, like we're South Asians, so Indians, Pakistanis. So they moved in the 1700s, late 1700s, early 1800s. My mom's Kenyan, my dad's Tanzanian. My mom has some Persian roots, like ages ago. And my dad has some Arabian roots, so my dad's a little darker. And yeah, we're all this. So we're spread out from, it started off in like the East African community in Tanzania. that's where we have the biggest community. And then people started spreading out to Dubai, and then they went to the US and Canada and London, and very few people in different parts of Europe. And now in Australia, they have a community as well, but they're kind of intertwined with the Hyderabadi. So they're not Khoja Shia, but it's still like a Shia mosque. But there are a few Khojas in Australia as well. I haven't been to the mosque in Sydney, but I did go to the mosque in Melbourne. And
so how did they end up in Africa?
One, it's very trade. So they were merchants, and they moved to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
okay.
So they didn't move as like slaves, like, you know, Islam would like them to. But yeah.
So
so that's how they moved, and basically a very tight-knit community indeed. And not because, well, one, a lot of people know.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you're getting a little choppy.
It's getting choppy.
Okay.
Choppy.
Hold on. Let's see if we can.
All right. Am I back now?
A little bit choppy. Okay, now good. I think it's good. Yeah, good.
Go for it.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. All right, I'm here. So yeah, I came out to speak publicly because one, I'm not just a nobody in Tanzania. A lot of people know my family. My dad works for the community board, and he's also a chef. So he cooks for when we have Muharram and like food and stuff. And a lot of people, and my last name is quite unique. So a lot of people know my family from everywhere around. My dad is also one of 13. So that helps. That helps. When they all started spreading around, it just got, so yeah, I had to stop talking to them, because the way the community is that your life revolves around this community. And the ostracism is so bad that if you come out of it, or if you stop wearing hijab, it spreads around and everybody talks about you. You're like the center of attention. I receive so much hate for anything that I do, for even like standing up for it, for like even having my personal choice as being an atheist. They're like, but how could you do this to your parents? But you're a bad example to the community. And some people have also called me disgusting, and just a lot of hate. So I wake up with hate every single day. And I've just learned to go, okay, well, that means I'm doing something good. If you're hating me, that means I've put something in your mind that will probably grow later. It's just planting a seed. The one part about community is like, you know, the gossip is there, and there's just less, like, I think in Pakistan, women are more empowered than they are in Tanzania. So the way I was raised in a very liberal household, in a sense that I was allowed to study overseas. I was the first one who did a degree in my family, like in my immediate family. So, you know, I went overseas, I studied, and I'm never coming back. But, you know, my dad said what a man can do, a woman can do better. So I was raised like that. So my family is quite chill, but they also wear hijab. So I wore hijab until 2011. And I started taking it off by 2010. And I moved out from Tanzania in 2009. Yeah, 2009. So I started taking it slowly off, and it got looser. And I went to Iraq in 2013, and I wasn't wearing a hijab then, but I had to wear it in Iraq for the mosques. But, you know, I had a piercing and I was wearing hijab. And when I went to Iran as well, people are like, it's haram. And I'm like, no, it's not. You have ear piercings. Yeah, that was in Iran, in Qum. Yeah, I was in Qum.
Oh, you went to Qum?
And I went to like Mashhad, I went to Qum, I went to Kish. I travel a lot. I've been to 41 countries.
You did the Zara, right? Did you do the Zara?
Yeah.
So Mashhad is in Iran, which Imam Reza, the eighth Imam of the eighth Imam of Shia Islam, is in Iran, which they really love, because Iran is the Shia center, right? And most of their favorite Imam managed to die outside the current borders. So the only one that they have inside their current borders, they celebrate a lot, which is Imam Reza and Mashhad.
And that's my name. My last name comes from Imam Reza. So I'm supposedly a descendant, but who knows?
Wow.
I don't even know.
You know,
you're covering all them.
I think in a way we all are. There was just one person that was born. So, you know.
Yeah, like even Queen Elizabeth was a descendant of Muhammad. You know that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth is a documented descendant. Yeah, I know.
Is that a thing? Funny. Like, are you being sarcastic or real?
No, I'm not being sarcastic. This is actually something. Huh? No. She was. There was the daughter of I can't remember the exact connection, but I'll look it up for you. But there was in her ancestry, she was married to one of the queens, one of her great grandmothers, just a female sort of ancestors, was a queen who left one of the descendants of Muhammad, the early descendants of Muhammad from Spain or something like that. I'll look up the thing. Keep going. I'll look it up and I'll mention, because I think people are going to want to know this. Perfect. Even Richard Dawkins has talked about it, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah. I do love Richard Dawkins. He's going to be, he's the one person I want to take on a dinner date. You know, who would you like to go on a dinner with, dead or alive? Richard Dawkins is on my list.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the community is, yes, definitely tight-knit, and it's really hard to just come out of it. It was traumatic for me. Mine was a gradual change. So from the age of 12, I stopped praying. I tried going back to it. I tried studying more about it, and it wasn't coming back. Like, I was never that spiritual to God. I again, you were right about saying that Ali and Hussein meant more, and I'm like, yeah, I still did Ashura, because I was like, it was just something I wasn't ready to let go until 3 years ago. Yeah. So, it was a gradual change. And people, yesterday I got a message saying, are you posting up things about Islam because you want your citizenship? And I'm like, I'm already an Australian citizen. I knew to be a citizen. I knew I was going to be a citizen 9 years ago, because I work as an engineer, and they need me. How
does that work? You say shit about Islam and they hand you a citizenship? Like, is that what they think?
That's the audience that I deal with every day. And yeah, that's the audience I deal with. They're like, oh, you want attention. And that's the people, like, it's very high school mentality, and it's childish.
Right.
And people, very few people have even come up and like put up debates or anything. They're also controversial things that they say, like, that it was okay in that time. So I'm like, you're right, that what you're implying now is that it is not okay. That means Islam then, what was practiced, should not be practiced the way it is now, right? Like, you shouldn't be killing people. And I have a question, because this came up on my Instagram today. If you're an atheist in Iran and you're public, like, if you just go like, I'm an atheist, do you get killed for it?
Oh, yeah, of
punished
course.
Or jailed?
If you're public about it, yes, for sure. If you're public about it, or if you get outed by somebody. Well, just to give you an example, there was a teacher in Iran, which he told his class that he thinks that the story where Prophet Yunus was swallowed by a fish, I think it's a fish in Islam, it's a whale in Christianity.
No, it's a fish in both.
No, okay.
It's a fish in both. People, I don't know where they came up with whales. I didn't even know what whales were back then.
So he said to he basically told his class that he thinks that's a metaphor. And guess what happened? He got executed.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
This is in Iran.
Oh yeah, I read about this guy. What was his name?
No, in Iran they don't behead you, they hang you, which is weird, because they're supposed to behead you according to Islam.
Yeah, no, that's
they're trying to be more humane.
No, actually the thing is that I've seen the videos, they don't break your neck. They do it in the way that you actually suffocate throughout the whole process. Like, they just put it around your neck, and the rope starts to go up. So the humane way is to drop somebody, and the neck, the humane, quote unquote, the humane thing would be not to kill people. But
I know, right?
Yeah,
I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, but the less evil version would be to just drop somebody until when the rope breaks their neck and they just die immediately. But they don't do that. They put the rope around your neck, and the crane thing.
A crane.
Yeah, the crane will slowly lift you up, and you feel like it's a slow process. It's really bad. Actually, a beheading would be better, I think, less painful.
Sometimes you could, yeah.
Speaking of beheading, I found I just wanted to catch the audience up on the descendancy of Queen Elizabeth. since it's old.
No,
Britain
that's
and
boring.
old
Let's
Islam.
move on.
Wait. How did speaking of beheading come to that?
Oh, because old England, Game of Thrones, old Islam, like they were all based on beheading. Anyway.
I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Okay, yeah, you should. It's pretty.
Blasphemy.
So I just wanted. I'll say this really quick for the audience. So there's a guy, Al-Mutamid ibn Abad. He was a king of Seville in Spain around the 11th century. And he had a daughter named Zaida who eventually went off and married one of the guys in Castile named Sancha Alphonsus. And she changed her name to Isabella. So she was actually a direct descendant of Muhammad from back then, from just about 300 years prior. And then that came all the way down. And by the 14th century, her descendant, Isabella Perez of Castile, had married the Earl of Cambridge. And then Queen Elizabeth was descended from that. So she is actually, there's a full family tree, and she's descended 43 generations.
Anyways, let's move on.
Usually I would say interesting, but that was boring. I agree with that, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Zahra.
You know what? You guys are gonna listen to this years from now, and you'll be like, "What was he saying?"
Remember that thing that Ali said?
Or you're just gonna Google it.
Also, I really like that Audrey Hepburn painting.
That's actually not. That's a photograph that I'm in my wife's photography studio. So what you see is. Well, not her studio, but this is one of the rooms where she meets clients. So over, you see a picture of a woman with the red hair. She's an ex-Muslim woman with the henna on her back. And then Audrey Hepburn is actually a young girl.
All right. Let's beheaded. I want to get back to topic. Zahra, regarding your question, if people from Iran might tell you that, oh, I'm gay in Iran and nothing is going to happen to me, right? Or I'm an atheist to Iran and nothing is going to happen to me. And to them is like, well, try being open about it. I mean, don't try being open about it, actually.
Exactly. What happens when you're open about it?
Yeah, that's the main difference. Being like, okay, yeah, you can be secretly gay and you could be secretly atheist. And if you're careful enough, I was an atheist when I was in Iran, and I was stupid enough to tell my classmates and even tell my teacher at some point. And I even told the police officers. But if I kept on doing that for a long time, eventually I would have been telling I was an idiot, basically. But at some point, if I kept doing what I did, I would have gotten in trouble. Like let me just give you a quick story. I promise it's going to be more interesting than what Ali said. So I was arrested one time. For being in a car with a girl, right? They asked me if she's your sister, and I said, no, she's not. They asked me if she's your cousin. I said, no. They asked me if you're related. I said, no. Like, okay, then you're fucking arrested, and you're following us. So they made me follow them, and they took me to the police station, and the guy in the police station kept on, like, lecturing me about how bad of a Muslim I am, how I need to be a better Muslim, blah, blah, blah. And I was like a, young, rebellious person at that time, and I was like, I got so tired of him lecturing me, and I was like, listen, your rules don't apply to me. I'm not even a Muslim. And he was like, what? I was like, I'm not Muslim. And like, I quit Islam. So whatever you're saying doesn't apply to me. And he all of a sudden went from being an asshole to actually being a decent human being, because he got really nervous for me. And he was like, listen to me, you little shit. I could destroy your life right now with my pen, right? Don't you ever say that to anybody ever again. Right? Like he got really concerned. Like he was an asshole, but he wasn't that big of an asshole. Like when my mom came to bail me out, he took my mom to the office, and he told her, I'm not going to repeat what your son told me, but you go home and you talk to him and you tell him that you should never say that ever to anybody again, or like your son is like crazy. And my mom, like when she came to pick me up, when I got to her car, she was like, "What the hell did you tell him?" Like I like just go home. Like, but he scared. I think that guy might have saved my life, because he really scared me, and I basically became a little bit more private about my views after that. So that's until now. Yeah, that's the environment.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's the environment.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to talking about the Khoja, because I feel like it will enlighten a lot of your users and you guys as well. So, the
it's a tight-knit community, and yes, we have a president in each country, somebody that kind of takes the leadership, makes decisions, and we have a board of members. And recently they had their elections, and guess what? No woman was allowed to stand up for it because the president has to be a guy. But not even that. It gets interesting. The women weren't allowed to vote. They've never been allowed to vote.
Oh wow!
It is crazy.
So wait, let me reiterate. So there's a president of like a sort of the religious community, and sort of for different chapters in different countries, and this president always has to be a man, and the people
women
who vote for him
have to be men as well.
Wait, we didn't have this. What the hell is this? Is this like a sect within the Shia? Like you're 12er.
Yeah.
But you're 12er Shia too, right?
Yeah.
So how's this?
And then we have a people sect. It was formed for a community purpose, groups and whatnot.
Did you guys have Marja attack lead? Oh, you didn't have Marja. You don't have. Oh, that's a
No, they have it.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you guys. Okay, so how is that?
No. They're complete Shias. The only thing is that they have a thing of community too. It's like a whole bunch of Shias who hail back to the Indian subcontinent. I mean, Khoja, they're essentially converted people from the Indian subcontinent,
right?
And then they converted to Islam, and then they formed communities around it that are kind of independent of the religion but influenced by the religion. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is very accurate. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the thing with the community and being raised in Tanzania is, well, one, critical thinking just doesn't apply in religion. It's just a thing that you have and you block it. You can be a scientist and critical think about everything else. When it comes to religion, you start giving yourself excuses for it.
Right.
And with the Khoja community, it gets so petty, and I think you've also had those threats, and Ali, maybe you too. I haven't stalked you enough, but you just have people who go very emotionally abusive, and they would go to your family, not attacking, but they'll tell them off, and that's why I had to cut contact with my family because, there was like, why do you have to go public? Why can't you just be an atheist and just say what you do? But like, why do you have to? And I'm like, no, I need to expose what's happening within the community because it's not right. Like people say that they're peaceful, but they're nothing but peaceful. They're not accepting. They don't like being challenged. They're not. I mean, I've met more Muslims who would like to not debate, but would like to even get in a discussion as compared to the Khoja community. They just don't. They would rather attack me. But the big thing that happened last year, July, was a gay wedding that happened in Vancouver. And that was my public out. A gay wedding that happened in Vancouver with somebody from my community who's Canadian, born there, but his parents are from Tanzania, or I think Tanzania, yeah. And that wedding happened, and he married a non-Muslim, and they're not secular, but like they're more liberal Muslims, the family, and everybody. So when they found out about the wedding, people just went crazy about it. They were like, "This is disgusting. How could you do this? How could the parents support them? You shouldn't have accepted them." And I was actually just looking at my phone because there were letters. These were letters sent out from the community to like their community, or like a public letter, but it wasn't public, like online public. It was public, like within the community. So nobody else spoke about it. And when I found out about it, and when an ex-Muslim Khoja friend of mine sent it to me, I'm not staying quiet because I don't have a lot to lose if I come out. Like, I'm independent. So in terms of like coming out, I don't really care. So we started writing an article about it, and I was the first one who posted it. And in 3 days, it got 600 comments. And this was just a public article because everybody started tagging each other. Like that was my first thing, and people were disgusting things. Some people from Australia, like one of the presidents from the Melbourne community, went like, we all commit sins, but we do it in private, and it's at least hidden under the rug and stuff like that. And I'm like,
did you watch them have sex? Like, did you watch them do it? But they're like, the wedding was public. And I'm like, you have weddings. It's still their private life, right? Like, you guys have weddings. And I am going to read out the letter, a bit of it. They're like gay marriages within the community. That is the title. And then they're like referring to the subject above, further to social media and news information circulation. It is believed that one of our Khoja members from Canada has solemnized a gay marriage, gay in capital.
Oh, wow. Wait, is this referring to
given
you?
The Sharia...
No. This is the marriage that happened in Vancouver.
The marriage that happened in Vancouver, and by social media, it was not even public. I made it public. Right. I did make it public. I defended them because I was like, this is not right. And at that point, I was more vouching for a progressive. I was more out as a progressive Muslim versus an atheist, because I was like, look, it's not beyond you guys to not be nosy in people's business. Because what they also did, they went through their Instagram, which was public, and they downloaded photo, and they exploited it, and they sent it. It was disgusting. They sent it to WhatsApp groups. People talked about it. I had a dispute with my cousins over it, and I came out of that group, and I'm like, you can't do this. This is not right. It's none of you. Like, they were just exploited left, right, and center. And it went all around Canada, London, like, that's what I'm saying. It circulates, gossip circulates so fast. And this was a letter they wrote, right? Given the Sharia perspective, this is totally wrong, and this may be the first official gay marriage solemnized around the Khoja world. If this is true, the Khoja Shia Ithnasheri Jamaat of Dar es Salaam condemns this disgusting act to its fullest, denounces and discourages such moves in the future within the Khoja world. Proposes that the parents and the concerned individual should immediately, illegally or forcefully vacate the leadership position. So the mother was in one of the leadership positions.
They're punishing the
Canada in the community.
They're punishing the mother because of what the children did.
Because they're like, how could you be in that marriage? How could you support it and not? Why would you be happy for him? And they'll have further elections. Suggest that the membership of the concerned individual should immediately be revoked by the Constitution of Jamaat, which he's a member of. So this is them ostracizing, right? This is them publicly taking, like, I'm pretty sure I'm ostracized as well. I don't even know. I haven't gone back home, and I'm not going to go to the mosque. But it'll be interesting if they ostracized my family, because my dad is very popular, very religious, and it would just be very stupid, but I wouldn't hold it against them to go there.
Would it be safe for you to go back? Would it be safe for you to go back?
Tanzania is not a theocratic country, so in terms of security and stuff, yes. But people still hate me, and I have no interest in going back.
Not by the government, but what about the people?
They'll talk about me, but why would somebody want to kill me? Because Islam is peaceful. What are you talking about?
But
what are you talking about?
Zahra, are your parents? How many siblings do you have?
I'm one of six. So I'm one of six. They all live in Tanzania. One of them lives in Pakistan, and one of them lives in London.
Right. So are you?
Can you please not go back ever, please?
I'm never gonna go back.
Okay, good.
I think. Go on.
Oh no! I was just I just wanted to get some more idea of your family structure and everything. So, out of your six siblings, or you're one of six, your five siblings, and your parents, are all of the rest of them still religious? Are you in touch with any of them? Are any of them supportive?
I stopped contact. As much as they would like to stay in touch, it just came with a lot of emotional blackmail. I tried getting back in touch with my sister just on Monday, and she's like, why are you doing this? People have been telling us off and stuff. And it was just like, I'm not a disappointment. It's like, I'm really not. Apart from my atheism thing, I am very proud of what I've achieved in my career. Like, I talk at panels on engineering. And out of all the things, you should be proud about it. But she's like,
you're successful women in STEM.
Right.
Yeah, I am, and I'm very happy about it. And out of all the things, that is something that you should respect. And I know I have different and opinions. And I have to, like, I am going to go public because these things shouldn't be kept quiet. And if they're my beliefs, I'm allowed to say what I want to say. And I'm like, it's just, and I think I want to be a model for other women who want to come out, which also introduces my new nonprofit that's coming up soon. It's called Faithless Hijabi.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yes. I'm really excited. So this is great. And guys, once it's out, you need to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. So the idea, I'm just going to introduce Faithless Hijabi a little, and that will relate back to my story, is opening a platform of educating Muslim women about ex-Muslim women, the ostracism, the abuse we faced in religion, the sexism, and the abuse we face after it, but also another, like, it'll be every layer, like every Instagram post layer, and then the other layer will be so, like, you know, making the women, so, I know most of us feel very, very liberated and thankful that we're not in religion, but also showing them that, hey, we're happy, we're not lost.
Right.
It's empowering for us.
Actually, that's the best kind of activism, because I think like a lot of this ex-Muslim activism, which is very good. We have done a good job, and so far, I mean, by we, I mean other people like you, ex-Muslims of North America, ex-Muslims of Great Britain, Norway, done a very good job in building the community. Then the next step was to reach out and find other ex-Muslims to let them know that we exist. That you guys have done a very good job on that as well. The third step, I think, some ex-Muslims disagree, but I think the third step is now to go and reach out to Muslims, right? To the skeptical ones, but not just to change them to, you know, I think it's a good idea to try to convince some of them that their ideas are bullshit, you know, right? But even short of that, just to get them become accepting of ex-Muslims, introducing to the ex-Muslims, that's huge. I think that's the third.
That is definitely the point that we're trying to hit, because I don't want other women to face what I face, and if I can stop it, I stop it. So the other thing I do outside of that is on Instagram, people write to me, well, one, discussing messages, but I've also had people that I'm helping coach with mental health, because I went through a lot of anxiety, and mental health is not, like, you know, considered or even a thing in Tanzania. So, and the thing is that people will usually give like wrong advices. They're like, why don't you start praying? Or, you know, if they're having issues with their relationships, they're like, maybe you should just like put him to, you know, like they just look at things very narrowly. Like it's just something that I've never been a part of.
Right.
And I would say I'm mostly Australian than I am anything else, because I've grown up in this society that is accepting secular. There's critical thinking like all around. They're taught that from school, but when I went to university, it was just a thing. You open communication with people that you don't agree with, and in Tanzania, it's not like that.
So if
you don't go.
Sorry. So if you're a Muslim and you don't think that you're ever going to change your mind, but you want to understand ex-Muslims, and you think that it's a humane thing to do to reach out to Muslims and show them that, you know, you're supportive of them, whether you disagree with them or not. Go find what's your Instagram again? Can you repeat that? How did
Faithless. It's Faithless Hijabi.
Faithless Hijabi. Okay.
Faithless Hijabi. I haven't posted anything yet. It's a coming soon hashtag. I'm just working on the logo.
Okay.
We're trying.
Once it's ready, let us know, and we'll promote
absolutely.
it. Yeah,
absolutely. So so the one thing that we're also trying to do is make it a Sydney-based group, and maybe even just have people who would like to promote that in other places. Right. So we'll start off with Sydney. Well, we'll start off with Sydney, like a one-on-one interaction where we employ ambassadors such as myself talking to girls who are in doubt. And well, it's not going to be my job to convert them, but it's going to be a responsibility for me to tell them about my story. And if they can, because I came out when I read Ali's book, and the first time I read it, I was like, this guy is shit. Like, I cannot read this. I shut it off. And I was like, but why? Like, I was like,
wait,
but
you're talking
why?
about, are you talking about the Najul Balamba?
Yeah. No, your book.
Oh, okay. So see, I am on top.
You knew that. You knew that, Ali. You wanted to.
Thank you. Oh, okay.
No. So the first time you hated me,
No, the first time I was just like, this guy, well, I didn't hate you, but it was like, this guy is spot on. I can relate to it, but he's so offensive. And then I shut it. And then I read it again after a few days. And I'm like,
his book is so nice.
Yeah, but you know, when you're still in denial, you're like, I can relate to this. And then I read it again and I questioned it. And I kept going. And that's when I was like, shit, I am not a Muslim anymore.
Yeah.
Like I was just because
Ali is the reason why you're ex-Muslim.
Ali is one of the reasons. Yes.
I would say that I.
It's so ironic that
what it is
it's so ironic a lot that you were let out of Shia Islam by someone called Ali.
No, but see, there you go. This is how it happened. Mawla Ali. No, but Zara, a lot of this is really about, and this is what I hear a lot, is that there are probably going to be people who are going to be listening to you speak here, who are in the Khoja community, who are girls, who are going to listen to you and they'll be like, okay, this makes sense to me. I've thought of this, and it'll annoy them for a little bit. I have
had about 9. I think we're just breaking off. Sorry. No, you're absolutely right. So since
I think we lost you. We'll just wait for a second.
I'm like, I'm not anti-Islam.
Can
you repeat that again?
Can you repeat that? You got cut off.
Okay, cool. I'm back. Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi guys. Okay. No, so like I have you're right. I think Ali is not the reason that I came out. I don't think it's Ayan or Sam Harris. These were people that helped me, come out, but it was always a thought that had struck. Like, you can't actually change somebody's mind like that, but what you can do is educate them more, give them support. When people can relate to you, they can then come out. And some of my posts, I was doing a social experiment on Instagram, was I put up facts, very extreme facts, because Islam can be, I'm liberal, to I'm accepting, to apostates should be killed, right? So like a big spectrum. And I put up very extreme facts. And I'm like, this is people's reality. What you're facing, you do not represent the whole of Islam, right? And Islam does not equal to Muslims. However, the book, so Islam for me will be the book, like it's a religion, but it's based on the books and the imams and the prophets and everything. But people follow it differently. They cherry pick, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But then why am I not allowed to cherry pick all the violent verses and go like, this is somebody's reality? And for you to deny it is to say that this does not exist. And I'm like, no, people live by this, and when you start defending this, you're saying it's okay that they do. And I'm not going to stand for that. So I'm going to fight that. And that's where Faithless Hijabi comes in, where we're like, we're going to show the truth there, how much ostracism we face, how much hate we face. I wake up with people calling me different things. And it was very new to me when I came out. And that's why a lot of people won't come out. I just got in touch with 4 or other 5.
What did they call you?
So they'll go like, oh, you just want attention, or you're money greedy, because they think I make money off like my activism. I'm like, no, I get 5 hours of sleep with my.
We're all funded we're funded by the CIA. We're funded by Mossad. People think we're breaking it in.
I know. I'm like, I wish that was the case, because I spend a lot of time. I put a lot of passion into like even my replies, right? Because sometimes I can get petty and just play their game. But then go on.
Do you get this? Do they tell you that? I get this from Sunnis a lot, that you're not an ex-Muslim because you were
Shia. An ex-Shia.
So, no, because you were Shia, so you were never Muslim to begin with. So
exactly. No. I have got this a few times. Yes, I have got this. But yeah, no, it's crazy how people view things. And Tanzania is like the Khoja community definitely needs somebody to speak out. And I wanted to be that platform because I'm okay when it comes to my values, and no matter who it conflicts, I am okay I'm okay losing people. A lot of my friends are Muslims, and if they don't have to agree with me, but if they think they even went on protesting against me and unfriended me, and I'm like, that's fine by me, right? That's okay. I'm okay with losing that negativity in my life because I'm not coming down from my values, and neither should other people. They should talk more about it.
There's this perception that Shias leave Islam more often than Sunnis. Do you guys have you guys heard that?
I have, but that's not exactly true. Not in the Australian ex-Muslims. We have more Sunnis, but also
proportionally per capita wise, like not.
I have heard about it. I have had people who've told me, well, if you didn't want to be Shia, you could be Sunni. And I'm like that was a second choice or anything. And I'm like, that's not how it works. I didn't leave because I was a Shia. I left because Islam does not make sense to me. This is even before tapping into science and reason and everything. It was just the psychological trauma that I wanted to address and dig deeper into. It had it had nothing to do with it had nothing to do with Hussein and everything.
Yeah.
And reading Ali's book, I remember he talked about a section on Jews.
I should read.
And I went to Israel.
That they own the media. That's what I wrote.
No, I did.
You also talked about how uncomfortable. There was a section where you talked about how uncomfortable it was talking to somebody who is a Jew because we're taught to hate Jews.
Yeah.
And I went to, and now I go, and I was a progressive Muslim at the time, and it was in 2016. And I go to Israel, right, the capital of everything. I go in, and I'm working in the Israel office amongst all Jews. There are very few Muslims there. At least by their names, and they would talk to me in Hebrew because they look very different. Some of them are Caucasian, some of them are Middle Eastern. So it didn't matter what I looked like; they didn't know where I was from. But it was interesting because I went in as an anti-Israeli with the whole Palestinian Israel thing, and I came out not anti-Israeli. It wasn't pro-Israel, but it was really nice understanding, just opening a platform to talk for all of us and understanding their point of view. And I don't even want to get deeper into it because it just extends to me talking about different perceptions and going, and the grass is greener on the other side. But I felt that, and then when I read your book, I was like, yeah, you're right. There's you're hitting a nail there. There is something that you're saying that makes sense, and that's how I started researching more and read up more things on Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris's podcast. And when I heard the podcast with Sarah Haider, talking about being brought up in what she thought was a liberal.
Which podcast? Our podcast?
Sarah
Waking
Haider.
Up, the Sam Harris one.
Oh, okay.
Sam Harris and Sarah Haider, and I was listening to it in on the plane. I was falling. I listened to podcasts and try falling asleep, and I woke up and I'm like, oh my god, she's like me. Her journey is
so
very
she's
similar
also
to mine.
she's also from a Shia background as well.
Yeah. I met her in Australia. I met her in Australia.
I think ex-Shias are superior to ex-Sunnis because we keep taking. They're more activists. Ex-Shias, ex-Sunnis are just I'm ex-Muslim, whatever. But ex-Shias,
I still have some fun with it. I always whenever it's Eid, I always type. I'm like, okay, happy Eid, whether you are a true Muslim or just a Sunni. And that's always, it's a lot of fun because they get they go nuts.
For my dad, every Sunni is a Wahhabi, and they're not Muslims because they want to kill it. So when I was dating a Sunni guy, my parents were like, you're never getting married. And I'm like, I'll do what I want.
Right. To be fair, both of them have a point. If you think about Shias are right. Muhammad kind of made it clear that Ali was supposed to take the,
Armin. No, he didn't.
All right. But to be fair,
he said, "Man kuntu mala fahada Ali." That doesn't mean. It just means whoever follows me follows. He said that about so many people.
No. That was the largest gathering that he could have done. He took him. He put his hand. That whole thing would be pointless. Anyway,
the reason that Shias and Sunnis differ is because we've got different accounts of history based on different hadith, right? So the Ghadir hadith.
To the Sunnis' credit, the most important. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I'm going to make this about me again.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Armin has met me before, and he knows I make everything
No, when we met. You're the guest. Good.
I was like, no, I'm going to make this about me because, one, I like it talking about me. And two, I actually have made notes on what I was going to address. I'm very organized. I have sticky notes as well. I wanted to just continue the gay wedding that happened and the letters that were
we went on a tangent. You're right.
Yeah. I actually have it. I have it written here anyway.
Okay.
So wedding happened, and then the mother was forced to step down. So she wrote a letter of resignation, and she's like, "I'm stepping down." But for all of those who have blamed me as having as like, why would I be supportive and everything? They're like, we had a hard time accepting our son as well. Like, it wasn't, we're like, because, we still thought it was a choice or anything. So they went through a struggle, and then they were like, no, it's not. So they understood him better, and they're very supportive parents. Like, I talk to them now. They think they've kind of adopted me, and they'll be happy listening to this. But
how was she in leadership, though? You said, given that she was a woman.
This was in Canada, so she was one of the board members. So I think it works very differently. So she was there. So she stepped down, and I was actually talking to her the day before, and she's a progressive Muslim, which is great. But she was just like, everybody blamed her. Like, they're like, what kind of a mother are you that supported your son in this? So this is what they do, right? They make you feel bad for supporting their kids. And that's why I had to stop talking to my family, because if I wouldn't have, like, my family want to have contact with me. They love me a lot. But one, it's just bad for my mental health to always be pulled down by them and not do this thing. And they're going to get shit about me. So I'm like, if my dad can then, defend himself saying, I don't even talk to her, or she's not even my daughter, if he disowns me, I'm okay with that. I have accepted that. But it just goes back in a loop where they'll blame your family, and it's really sad that they have to go through this because of me. But I feel like there's a bigger purpose to all of this than just being around that community. There's getting in touch with your identity and whatnot. But just again, back to the gay wedding, I actually did write it. So when I posted the thing up, the Facebook thing saying these are the moral compasses that we have, where we ostracize people, where we talk shit about them, we gossip about them, but we've never tried learning more about it. We've never accepted it, and we've never really. We're not a community that way. How are we a community if we force people to go out of the community? I'm pretty sure there would have been a letter sent out about me being ostracized as well. I just reread the letter now. I hadn't read it in like a year or so. And some of the letters that were sent out also was like, some of the letters or some people just thought that they had authority to just question other people's choices, right? So some of them were sent out. They're like, so what happens? Like, who pays the dowry in this? And then what happens when they get divorced? Because, when you get divorced, you have to, for a certain amount of time, you can't get married or anything. So what happens when they get divorced? Who is the guy and who is the girl? And I'm like, that's not how it works. I'm like, education 101. Like, is that really the question that comes to your mind versus what did you guys go through? Like, where is your humanity in this? And it was just.
They're like, how can we apply Islamic laws to a gay wedding? That's what they're basically asking.
They're like, how are you guys still Muslims? Like, that is what Islam is defined by, their definition of it. And this is the reason I brought this up was to kind of give you an idea of what the community is like, the people that I have to work with every day, where somebody would just go like, I'm just going to pull up my Instagram comments because they're also really fun. They're very fun.
Okay. At some point, we need to get to the Patron questions. We have a live in our live chat.
Can you keep asking them, and then I'll keep talking because I like talking. And
there's a whole bunch. So after we're done, like, we just need to spend a little bit of time at the end, just go through the whole.
Yeah, we'll do that we'll break for that in about 10-15 minutes, and we'll start the Patron questions. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you one more thing. We had a previous guest also from a Shia background from Australia on this podcast last year, the Imam Tawhidi, right? Who, when he was here, probably. So when he was here on the podcast and everything, we had a conversation. I did kind of challenge him a little bit on some of his, the whole thing about comparing the immigrants to dogs and things like that. So I don't know. He doesn't. And since then, I kind of feel like the whole thing's gone a little off the rails with him. But what's your view of him? Are you familiar with that? He's also a Shia Imam and so on.
No.
You don't know about him?
I've heard of him, but no. I just stopped. I just stopped. Like when I came out of it, I'm like, I don't want to hear any of this. I don't want people to sugarcoat things for me. I don't want people to try to bring you back. I'm like, I don't want that negativity in my life. And if it's Islam or people of it, it's not that I don't have people that disagree with me. It's just that why would I put myself through that cycle again? Why would I want that? Why would anybody want their kids to go through that?
Right.
Like if I was, I wouldn't.
No, I was saying that he's more of one of these guys who's so he's anti-Muslim immigration. He's an imam. He calls himself an imam, but he's sort of anti-Muslim immigration.
But she doesn't know, so let's not get into the detail of that. Right.
No,
I like the fact that you said why would somebody sugarcoat it?
I was going to get to the reform thing. I'm like, what do you think about people who want to reform it?
Right.
But
okay, so I that was a question that I think I asked you guys as well. Remember? And I'm like, why would you, when you're like preach atheism instead of reforming Islam? And I had to disagree with you guys there because I think the way I came out, and it's based on personal experience, that I was I was a liberal Muslim, that I wanted to reform it. And I'm still, if Islam cannot go away, I'm still pro-reformation because that's the next best thing.
Armin, wait, let her.
I'm not. I didn't
He's
say anything.
itching to say something, but Zara, finish
you're the one that interrupted. I didn't say anything.
I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue, and then you guys can say the question. So like, no, I'm all in for. No, I wouldn't say all in, but I would be supportive of a reformed Islam, and then slowly getting, as long as you have your reasons, right? Because I feel that when I came out of religion, my connection to God disappeared because that was the only way God was introduced to me. So I was never spiritual. And I think that the character that I have is that I feel powerful, being responsible for my actions, instead of thinking that, hey, maybe an entity outside is controlling things. Right. And, or like planning my destiny or my luck or anything. So I came out of it, but I understand the need that people have to hold on to God. It makes them feel happier. It makes them, I don't know. It's still indoctrination, but if that's what they want, and while I think it's a weak form of it, let them do it. So, like, I just don't want.
Oh my God! I have to take notes.
I don't want future generations to grow on. Go on.
All right. So first of all, I'm all for all that. Okay, but the thing is that what the source for all that so-called reformation was not Islam. The source of that reformation was ideas outside of Islam, right? So so I'm all for that progress. What I'm suggesting is that the force behind that progress, the source of that happening is ideas competing with Islam. That's why what I say is what's happening is Muslims are being reformed. It's not Islam that is being reformed. All I'm saying is that give credit to the Muslims that are reforming by calling by calling it Muslims reforming. Don't give credit to Islam. Can't reform. Islam is a backward ideology. It's a barbaric ideology, right? So,
you're right. I get your point of view now. Yeah, you're right, and you have definitely put up a very good point about it. And yeah, you're right. No, I'm happy with like the last thing we want is for more hate, which we get every day. So I want more acceptance for the ex-Muslims. I think we all do. I think every ex-Muslim is fighting for not it's acceptance regardless of what you change. It's just let us be. And we want to highlight why we're this people. Right. If you have I love it when people go like, but have you asked a scholar or have you even read the book? And I'm like, yes, I have. Right. And that's what made me come out.
Right.
They never ask you that when you become a Muslim. They're like, did you
I know. They're like, oh, okay, so you're good. Like when it's this is the really annoying part, that when there's something good about Islam, about hey, be nice to your neighbor and whatnot, nobody questions it, right? Then I'm like, maybe your neighbor is the one who only has to be Muslim or anything. Nobody questions it. But when there's something negative, people are like, oh, no, this is not right. You're reading it wrong. You're just doing it. Like there's a different interpretation for it. You need to always just reiterate the interpretation. What was interpreted yesterday as beating wives. Right. is interpreted as something else tomorrow.
You accepted my position too fast. I had a lot more to say.
Okay, Armin, but we've been through that before.
All right. Okay.
So let's not get into it.
Can I just give you one? There's so much I want to say, but just one more thing. Like, okay, if you see a Muslim, right, that is fighting for gay rights, fighting for women's rights, fighting for secularism, fighting for democracy, right? Don't say, oh, look, Islam could be good, but don't give credit to Islam. Give credit to that Muslim.
Just that person.
That person, because a Muslim is not just a Muslim. Don't reduce Muslims to Muslims and nothing but Muslims. We are all influenced by many different, sometimes contradictory sources of ideas. All I'm saying is that you can't go to Quran and expect somebody by accepting the Quran more for them to become more liberal or more secular. No, it's the more you move away from the sources of Islam, the more liberal, democratic, secular, and accepting you become. Even if you're still calling yourself a Muslim, you are less influenced by Islam and more influenced by other ideas. The more so-called reformed you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like people who are. The whole reform stuff actually comes out of atheists speaking up. It doesn't come out of reformers speaking up.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
When all of the Reformation, the Enlightenment thinkers, these were atheists and deists. When they spoke up, then they came up with a neutered sort of reform version of it. Right. It doesn't happen. Nobody came out and said, "I'm a reformer."
Sam Harris had a good summary. He says the doors to religion, I think with Zara.
Busted from the outside in.
Yeah, the doors to I don't know. So the doors to reforming religion is not open from within. They're kicked out from outside. That's how. Yeah, that was a perfect summary. Yeah, but go on.
Anyway. Yeah. So Zara, go ahead.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. That's what I said before. Islam does not equal to Muslims. So when I don't like practices of when I have problems with Islam, that doesn't mean I have a problem with with all Muslims. I have problems with teachings of it, and if you adopt that, I will challenge that. I don't have anything against you as a human being, but and if you decide to call yourself a Muslim, then I don't have anything against you as because you're a Muslim. I have things that you adopt from Islam that, well, one, I do not agree with because they're a violation of human rights and freedom. And I that's very important to clear out, especially when you go public. People think that when you put this highlights, they're like, what do you have against Islam? The questions I get asked, why are you not picking other religions? Why do you only have to do this? Like, why are you so anti-Islam? And I'm like, I'm not anti-Islam. I'm highlighting it. And
I am anti-Islam.
Well,
to be.
I'm going to be very PC here. I'm going to be very PC here because I am anti anything that has violence. There are good parts about religion, but they're not limited to religion. And they're not limited to religion. See, that's what people say, but there's so much good in Islam and stuff, and I'm like,
there's no good things.
Really?
In Islam. But here's the way I say. Here's the way. See if you agree with this, Zara. The way I see it is that the main victims of Islam are Muslims, right? So for you to be pro-Muslim, you have to be anti-Islam.
That is interesting. It's also very polarizing, and it sounds very black and white. I don't think it is that way. For you. I just think that there are definitely different views about it, and people see it very differently than how we see it.
Of course.
Is there anything you about,
but the only reason why I say it's my opinion is because I think it's true. Like that's how beliefs work.
Yeah.
But exactly, that's what I said. That's what I said. That it's true for you.
Right.
Okay. We'll have another one on beliefs.
Okay.
So, is there anything that you liked about growing up? Something about Shiaism? Is there any part of it that you miss?
I like Eid. I really like Eid.
I like Eid.
I like the family. Fuck that. I stopped getting my slide. And then I had to pretend to do it. I'm like, this is not comfortable because my mom's like, why aren't you doing it? I'm like,
oh wait, girls do it as well? You guys hit your chest?
You guys are talking about the beating your chest. So in the morning of because they're mourning, and not mourning as an MOUR, not without the U, the death of Hussein, the grandson of Muhammad, what they do is they beat their chests.
Right. But sorry, I interrupted you. What did you like about the Eid? The food?
Eat the food, the family togetherness. I really enjoyed that, but I think that's more of a cultural thing. And now I don't get to take part in any of it. And when I say I don't get to take part in it, none of my Muslim friends are going to invite me to it.
We have in ex-Muslims of North America has like a haram version of Eid.
I know we have it. We have here too. We try to. Okay. We try to. We're like, in the essence of Eid, let's go out drinking.
I gotta say that the Khoja, like the food that you guys have, is amazing. I absolutely love all the Khoja.
My dad's a chef. That's how people know my dad. He's a chef in Tanzania that cooks for it, and everybody loves his food.
Yeah.
Right.
He quit his business. His retirement plan is cooking. Yeah. So everybody knows me as that girl whose dad makes amazing food, and I'm the one here eating pasta, in case anybody was wondering, because that's all I can cook.
Yeah. So I wanted to say I actually did like the what you're calling the sinazani or the math, or like I enjoyed it, not the violent one, but just the kind that's like the intensity of clapping, because that's where I learned how to sing. That's where I learned all my music.
Yeah.
I actually have a song.
Were you reciting Nohas?
Yeah, I was a big reciter. Me and my brothers used to do it, and then we were in a rock band later. And then there's I even recorded my band even recorded a song called Ptolemy. I'll send it to you guys. And it's
you kind of look like one of the Noha reciters, the Pakistani or the Indian guy. I don't know who he is. It's very famous, but I'll find him out.
Oh,
I haven't heard it in like 10 years.
Yeah,
10 years.
No, but
I was very young when I left. Yeah,
no, but this was like an English song, and then it was inspired. The melody was inspired by some of the Nohas, with the matam and everything. And I actually got a bunch of people to come in and beat their chests around a microphone in a studio,
Ooh.
And then we recorded that, and that became part of the beat for the entire song. So I'll actually send it to you guys. It doesn't have anything to do with Muharram or anything.
Yeah,
it's a very heavy guitar rock song.
So
but
a lot of girls come to check out guys, because that's a lot of men come and show off. They take off their shirt and start beating their chest, and there's always a whole row of women checking it out
on the roofs. Yeah, on the roofs, like checking it out, looking down from the. Sorry, Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it was just. I don't know if that's how I went to check out men. Yeah, no.
Anyway.
All right. Patron questions.
Sure.
So let's do that. Do you have anything else that you want to say, Zara?
No, I think I spoke enough about it, and I'm going to have a Q&A with I'll post it up on my Facebook page. So there'll be a live Q&A on Facebook tomorrow. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Send me your your Instagram and your Twitter and all that stuff. We're going to post that here in the description.
I don't have Twitter. I don't have Twitter yet. I should get it right.
Yeah.
No, you probably shouldn't. It's smart to stay away from it.
No. It's
okay. Well, let me see how I go with Faithless Hijabi, and maybe next year, January, I'll start. Right. I need to dedicate time to activism. I really need to do that. I do that at work, and I'm like, no, don't do this. It's a new job. Don't do this.
Yeah.
But by the way, Ali, in the live chat, there are some shout outs to people that know and have met Zahra. And I'm
going to read all those.
So read those as well. Okay.
So I'm going to go in.
Yay.
Okay. So, all right, let's go with, we've got a new patron. Moose Gal's here. Moose, welcome. And thank you very much.
Yeah, Moose.
Amazing. All right.
How can I read this?
Oh, let me send you a link.
Yeah. So, James is saying, how is Muhammad the perfect man if he didn't father a son?
I responded to that.
Oh, you did? I have a really funny story about this, actually.
He had a son. His name was Ibrahim. He died.
Yeah, he had several sons, actually. He didn't, wasn't the only son, but all of his children died in infancy. All the boys died in infancy. The only one who actually survived to adulthood. I mean, there are, depending on what sect you're in, he also had 3 daughters. Some of them say they were stepdaughters from Khadija. Other people say they were his and Khadija's biological daughters, apart from Fatima, but that's all disputed. Apparently,
on Facebook.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, wait.
So now, that's one thing. Then there is, we were at the Muslimish conference. Alishba was on a panel with this other sort of Muslim girl, and she was talking about how Islam values sexuality. And Alishba was like, Islam doesn't value sexuality. You have to have it with your husband. You can't really go around to another dude and say, it's all within confines of marriage. And she's like, well, the Prophet he didn't have kids with all of his wives. And she's like, well, of course he didn't, because one of them was 9 years old. Right. But anyway, I thought it was funny.
Anyways, let's go to the next question.
Perfection. Oh, okay. Is that a true? Is that so? I think Mike's asking about the story of Karbala, and is that true or just a legend? Well, there are aspects of it historically that are partly true, right, but they do big it up a lot to make people cry. Like the horse at one point started crying. There was that he threw the blood of an infant on the ground, and the ground started speaking. Then the sky started speaking. Like there is all kinds of weird stuff in there that is very obviously not true.
Right.
So it is.
Can I actually tell you something very quickly? We had a private math teacher that my parents had because they wanted to make sure our grades are high. But he calculated for us to show how ridiculous our school teachings are. Because they always wanted to make sure Yazid's army to be like, okay, so Hussein's army was so small, he's so like miserable and vulnerable, but Yazid's army was huge, right? But the numbers that they gave you is astronomically high for Yazid's army. And he showed us, he did a calculation that if all the Yazid soldiers were standing like shoulder to shoulder, right? The number that they gave us, they wouldn't fit in that desert. That's how big the number was. Like there's a lot of historical revisionism. Right. Zahra, this one's for you.
Yeah.
Why do they think it's acceptable to beat your wife? Don't you want to treat somebody you love with kindness and respect?
It shouldn't be acceptable, but why do they think that? Because again, they're in denial that beating is actually beating, right? They think it is more like the one question I got was, the one response I got, and I'm like, why would it even exist? And they're like, how is it violence if you're beating with less than a feather, right? So they don't even see it that way. They don't even see it as violence. Yes, you're right. They should, and they would want to be treated. And that's how they think that they're being treated. Mm-hmm. But, like the people that I talk to are the educated ones, the people who have social media, the people who, come from a very privileged background, right? We've all had we've all had education to a certain level, and some of us have different varied levels of education. So no, they don't see it that way as abusive. I don't think they've counted that there's emotional abuse written in it. Like people just don't understand what emotional abuse is. Like if somebody said, emotional abuse is also arming getting death threats, right? It's also like it's bullying. It's definitely it's still a violation of human rights. Like it's still abuse, and they don't see it that way.
I don't even think that was a concept back then. Emotional abuse.
No, it wasn't.
Well, it was because Muhammad brought a verse down from the Quran commanding people not to speak to him rudely. Like he was so sensitive that people were talking to him without respect that a fucking verse came down from God telling him.
Why is the verse not coming down for me? I wake up with hate every day. Why is nobody bringing a verse down? They're like, hey, can you not talk to Zara like that?
Because you're not meditating in a cave enough. You need to start meditating.
Every time Muhammad was annoyed about something, a verse would come down from God telling people to cut it out.
Yeah, I know. It's very convenient. Right. So Matt is saying, how do supremacist Islamic societies feel about lagging so far behind Kafir societies, or that's non-Muslim societies, in science, technology, medicine, prosperity, and social cohesion? Is there a Quranic explanation or justification? Well, I think the Quran itself is. I mean, if you look at any time you've had religion as part of your governing system and you've been told that all of the answers are in this book or in this doctrine, why would you want to look elsewhere? If you're born, right when you're born, you're like, oh, everything you want to know, everything, it's all in these books and these traditions, and this is what you have to consult. Why would you even be curious about anything else? If you're told that everything was created by God, why would you want to even explore nature to see where it all came from? So it kills curiosity. Religion fetters the mind. It completely kills any kind of it. It replaces intellect with superstition. That's what it does. I think that's just overall. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I have a lot to add to that, but I don't want to take more time. Zara, you go ahead.
I don't have. I wasn't even listening. Sorry. I was reading the questions that were addressed to me.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But if I get started,
you're gonna make it about yourself.
If I get started on this topic, it will take like a long time. But we could have.
So we can actually. You know what? We should have a whole episode on this. I don't think we've properly covered. We did kind of talk about it with Jerry Coyne a little bit overall, but I think it would be a good thing to cover why, like in Islamic societies, the lack of progress, the overt lack of progress. I mean, Pervez Hoodboy has written a whole book about it. So we should definitely do that. Yeah. And I'll make a note of it. Specialist is saying, hi, Zara. This is Alex. I met you in Sydney after the Day of Reckoning. Specialist. So that's obviously not their real name. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
I'm Alex. Okay.
Oh, you said Alex. Oh, okay. Hey. Yeah, Alex. That narrows it down.
I think I met him as well, right? I met him as well. By the way, he corrected my pronunciation of something.
He did.
Yeah. Okay, so apparently...
It must have said Bondi.
No, apparently...
We'll get to that.
I've been saying you know what? I said Shias are, persecuted. And I said prosecuted instead of persecuted. So thank you, specialist journalist, for fixing that.
I told you that once in a podcast. One of the
why are you guys not fixing me? Why are you leaving it?
I just think it's like, I would do it if I knew you better, but like, I am very blunt, but I think it's rude. Like, English is not your first language.
Yeah, but
I think I was beginning to correct you. I think at one thing, then we moved on to something else because I remember you said that in the past too. You said prosecuted, and I said no, it's persecuted. But then you moved on to something else. And besides, it doesn't. For me, it's like I know what he's talking about. So Zahra, there's another blonde infidel saying hi. Zahra.
I saw it. I was trying to reply, but then I thought I'll just do it over here.
Yeah.
There was also a question, what did you feel about working in Israel? So I was working for my company, so they sent me. I did not like getting interrogated in the airport. That was not fun. I went to the West Bank because I wanted to see what Palestine was like, and I made a few friends in Israel. The vibe that I got from Israelis is they weren't the most friendliest people if you don't know them, and then they're really nice. But it has nothing to do with me being a foreigner or racism or anything, because I think it's just how they interact until you're in their circle.
It's like the French.
I'm just kidding.
No, the French are never friendly.
Oh, well, maybe not to you guys because you're brown men. Like, I do really well in Europe.
Right.
Everybody thinks I'm exotic because I'm not white. It's great. Israel was nice working. The people were interesting. I think there was a lot of Jews, like a lot of Israelis told me, don't go to the West Bank, it's dangerous. But I went there and it was fine. I even got to go to Al-Aqsa, and they made me at the door. They made me recite Al-Fatiha, and I hadn't recited it in so long.
Yeah, I can get in. I know I can get in.
Yeah, you can get in, and then you'll be killed when people find out who you are.
Hey, did you go to the Dead Sea? Did you float the Dead Sea?
No, I did. I was working there.
I really want to go there. Would I actually be killed? No, right?
No,
That's safe.
No, you'll be fine.
Yeah, the security there is like really crazy. The security.
Hey, guys, 20% of Israel's population is Arabs of Palestinian descent.
No, yeah.
20% of them are, they're largely Muslim. So
I think it's safer.
The Jews will love you. The Jews will love you. The Jews will love you.
They already do. They support this podcast. We're Zionist supporters. They're like, all the Zionists love us.
We finally get to meet our sponsors. Like
that's why we're.
Yes, we get to meet our sponsors. If you're going to Israel, I have an Australian passport, so now I can travel without.
Nice.
Do you guys want to do like a secular jihadist episode in Jerusalem? That would be fucking great.
Yeah, we should. We should do that.
Amazing. Let's do it.
I think we'll have a lot of supporters anyway.
Yeah.
And that'll really help all the Zionists support your rumors.
Our Palestinian and Israeli supporters, and are both our Palestinian and Israeli supporters, we could have them in the same, recording, right? Because she'd be like, look, these other people are divided by religion. We're uniting people for leaving religion.
So the thing is, the conception that people have outside Israel and Palestine is that they don't get along. That's not true. They live peacefully. Yes, there is tension. That in Jerusalem there's a lot of tension, but otherwise, no. It's are
you talking about Israeli Arabs? Because they're Israeli.
There are Israeli Arabs. There are Israeli Muslims as well.
Right. Yeah.
But it's so like.
I think they get.
I think people are referring to the tension between Arabs that are not Israeli citizens and non-citizen Arabs. Not the citizen Arabs. So far, I don't know what the future holds, but so far the Israeli Arabs are treated the same as other citizens. Well, I mean, that's some instances. Yeah. But let's not get it. That's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, it's the most conflicted region of the world. It also has the highest rate of circumcision. So I think, when you cut out the foreskins of babies right when they're born, they're eventually going to. I think that they're all taking it out.
Wait, what the hell? How did they just get to circumcision all of a sudden?
Armin, it's got the highest rate of circumcision in the world, close to 100%, and it is also the most conflicted place in the world. So I'm just making a correlation. It's not causation.
Yeah.
Saying this. So I'm kidding too, by the way.
Okay.
So being facetious. Okay. So
okay.
A whale.
All right.
There's some questions about
what does your scream mean? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
I think
your what?
Your scream.
Your scream. I just googled it. What does that mean? I've never heard that before.
I think that's a compliment.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Only if they're compliments. I'm happy to take them.
By the way, Blonde Infidel is using his wife's account because I know Blonde Infidel. I met Asif with you while we were in Sydney.
Yeah.
But now whenever I see Blonde Infidel, I'm not going to know if it's Asif because Blonde Infidel is supposed to be Asif's wife, not Asif.
So I'm going to go through this just so that all the patrons do get a chance and they did it in order. Yeah. I'm just going to run through the rest of it. Mm-hmm. There's some discussion about the whole whale fish thing. Jonah did, according to the Bible and the Quran, live inside a fish. Later they made it into a Jonah. They eventually people now say it's a whale because that makes more sense.
Yunus is an Arabic way of saying Jonah. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
So now let's move on. Sorry, guys, I'm just focusing on the questions. So we already Zara talked about Israel. Okay, now Jimmy's asking, did you experience much racism in Australia?
Not me personally. Once, yes, I actually did once. But it was when the France and Australia team was playing, and the France had African members, and I'm like, I'm African. This is great. This is integration. This is nice. And when France scored, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And somebody just next to me started cussing. It's like, oh, there are no white people. It's all an African team. And I just looked at him like, that is a racist thing to say. I called him out on it, and he asked me to shut up because he's like, oh, shut up, you tan bitch. And I'm like, I like my tan. I'm beautiful.
Well, soccer fans are just, I mean, you can't really.
Yeah. And the bar didn't do anything about it. So it was at Annandale Hotel and they didn't do anything about it. I went and talked to her and I'm like, that was abuse to me as well. And that was racism. And, he's drinking and he's drunk and we have regulations about it. And basically they could get fined. And I didn't know this. I only found out about it after. They could get fined and they didn't do anything about it. And I'm like, so you're letting this person be racist in your bar and you're giving him a warning to go away with it, and he'll do that again and he'll abuse another girl because that's all he's going to get, a warning, and you're not even going to kick him out. And they're like, we don't want to cause a chaos. So thank you, Australia, for welcoming me and for also being biased.
Amazing. Okay, so
the thing is
again.
The thing, sometimes people, I had some experiences here in Canada as well. And when people say, like, do you get upset about it? And, like, this is how I respond. Like, listen, where I come from, if I go back there, I get hanged. Okay? So this is kind of okay.
Yeah, I grew up with racism in Tanzania as well. Being fair-skinned amongst African, they think because we came there as trades and merchants, they think you have more money. So every time I drove a car, a police would stop us. And then they're like, oh, I'm just going to check if you have all of this. They shouldn't be stopping you unless you're driving ill. But I wasn't. And then, they're like, oh, maybe you don't have your fire extinguisher up to date. And I'm like, okay, so that's a rule.
So you have been discriminated for both being too dark and also for being too white. You're not. So some people find you too light skinned and some people find you too dark. Wow. Okay.
Dark. Somebody asked about whether or not, I think it was Musgal. Even though you have a desire not to go back, would you want a relationship with your family? Absolutely, I would. The thing right now is they would like a relationship with me, but I cut them off because I think it's safer for them. I think we both need to take our time and space to get to a level where we can accept, and I think distance does it well. So I'm going to give them 2 or 3 years to come around. And while I help other people feel more comfortable, being ex-Muslims or coming out of religion, because in the end, family is not everything. They're also people. I mean, yes, you love them, but I went through a lot of shit in the last 2 months outside activism, just, personal stuff. And I had my friends there for me. So they were my family for that time. And as long as you have good support, it's important. And I do miss my family. I have nieces I haven't seen in a while. And I just want to see photos. I really want to see photos because that's all I have right now. It's hard, but it's not impossible. I'm happier right now.
That was very Australian accent, by the way. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. What does my accent sound like? Can somebody from the audience please tell me what I sound like?
It's a hybrid, I think. So I another
by the way,
question.
Can I just point out that I think you're the first guest that we had that went to the live chat herself and took control over the live chat. That's pretty.
Yeah,
control.
She just wants to get the questions for her.
I like that.
But there's another question.
So this is why I go on.
What? Sorry, say it again.
I said I also like attention because that's exactly what I'm doing when I come out as an ex-Muslim. It's all about attention. So
hey, listen,
I might as well live up to it.
If they're accusing you of it, just own it. Say, okay, whatever.
I'm just going to go, I love attention. I love the negative attention I wake up with every day. It's amazing.
Yeah. Those are people that are like, oh, you're just trying to get people to read your book. I'm like, why the fuck else would I write a book? Of course I want to get people to... What are you talking about? I
wrote this book just for myself and I got it published.
I just want to sit in a room and read it.
You don't get...
cost me $40, I think. I don't know. That was a lot of money.
Hey, I don't have
anything to do with that. You should read my book. It's only $5.
I know.
I think I already have...
Yeah, we've had this conversation before and I'm sorry about that, everybody.
That's right. I don't even have... I got a Kindle version as well, and then my friend has my book for the past year, and he hasn't returned it.
Oh man! Well, thank you for getting the book.
I know. It was a good read. I think all of these little pieces were exactly what I needed to be stronger in my opinions and come out and even research more. And that's how I got into science. That's how I got into science and reason outside religion. Previously, it was just my thoughts. And I didn't even know people like me existed. I was like, how can you not be a Muslim? I know you change religion.
That's the biggest thing, yeah.
That's the biggest thing. When people see this podcast and there's other people in your community who see it, they're like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one who was thinking this way.
I've actually, the girls came up to me. They're like, we wanted to know from a Khoja perspective because they know what it's like being in the community. And I'm like, look, it's not easy. It's never going to be, right? But what do you value more, your freedom and your choice to make that decision or to conform to the society, to a society that's not going to accept you for who you are? Are they really then people who care about you if they suppress you? Because being an ex-Muslim in hiding is even more dangerous because it comes with a lot of trauma. Like you try wearing a headscarf. I know somebody who wears a headscarf in Tanzania and she's like, I can't take it off, but I'm definitely an ex-Muslim. Like I've read so much and you've inspired and that's great. I like hearing that. Right. But I just feel like it's more traumatic because, you have to pretend to be somebody else. You're living a double life. And that's what I was doing in Tanzania. Like, when I go back home, I sometimes wore a headscarf and then now I just stopped wearing it. Uh-huh. But I had to, living a double life is just more traumatic than owning.
So if you're an ex-Muslim and you're listening to this, remember this and consider if it's safe for you. If it's safe for you, you don't have to be a full-on activist like us here, right? Yeah. But consider if it is safe for you, there is benefit for you being public about being an ex-Muslim because you're helping normalize it. And you might be actually. There might be other ex-Muslim around you that you don't know that if you are open about it, they feel like, oh, wow, there are other people like me. So consider it as an option as if it's safe for you and you're an ex-Muslim. After what you heard from what Zara said, there is and come talk to us. Like, come talk to any of us. Like, I know we sound very aggressive online or like we, because we put our views out there, but I think been hurt,
and we want others to not feel that pain, and we're happy to support people, and that's why Faithless Hijabi exists. It's mainly for women. Like, it's mainly it's targeted at women, but I talk to everyone anyway. It's only targeted at women because I can relate to that. Like, women, I feel like women have to come out explicitly as ex-Muslims, because if they're wearing a headscarf, you can't wear a headscarf when you don't believe in it. It's really hard. It's suffocating.
Right.
And then you're coming out of this religion that has misogyny and sexism, and you kind of have to be out there and say, hey, I'm a strong person and I don't need religion to tie me down, because that's what it's currently doing.
Right. I actually know an ex-Muslim that she's still wearing the headscarf because she's not out, and she's not at all comfortable coming out because of the community. But she's in a Western country and she's an ex-Muslim and she still wears the headscarf because
I met so many of them in the Netherlands. It's amazing. Over there, especially, like, loads of women who showed up at the talks were wearing headscarves. It was crazy, and that actually connects to the next one too.
I'm going to London and traveling to Paris and Switzerland, possibly in December for Christmas. So might meet up with the London group.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice!
That's amazing. Do that and tell us about it. So. Moose, again, is saying, in the U.S., it seems that a lot of atheists are under 45. Are there any ex-Muslims that come out when they're very old? So I got to say, almost every talk I've done, yes, lots of them. And after my book came out, because it was very public, I had people who we knew, like my parents' friends since we were little kids. Their uncles, they wrote to me. Then one of my uncle's friends, he's like, one of my uncle in London called me. He's like, oh, listen, one of my friends wants to write to you. Can I give him your email? I'm like, yeah, okay. So he wrote to me and he's like, yeah, I've always thought this way too. And these are all people who were sort of totally senior. I'd also get asked people to go to the Ex-Muslims in North America channel and check out the Sayyid Rizvi video. I think he's in his 80s. As a pretty killer video.
Actually, I deconverted my mom after the age of 50 before she died. She was a full-on atheist. She was very atheist. Like she was like, on her deathbed, she told my dad, like, I don't want anybody praying for me. I don't want any religious things on my tombstone. Like, she had instructions for my dad regarding what happens after she dies. So she was.
Wow. She's hardcore.
Yeah. Right. So, guys, I'm going to, we only have a couple of minutes left, so I just want to, I'm going to be a little selective here. Someone is saying, stay in Sydney, Zara, or whichever city I live in. That's specialist. He knows you. Somebody else is saying, fake Jews. Okay. Whatever. Tawhidi is an idiot. Yeah, I kind of agree. Which partner can have 4 spouses? The male, not the female.
No. They were talking about in the gay wedding. Like who gets to decide?
Oh, okay. So I lost the context. That's actually yeah. So
I think that is definitely up to them.
Yeah. Then James is saying Reform Islam would still be as silly as Reform Judaism. If it results in less jihad, that'd be good though, right?
No, it wouldn't. It would be a cover for spreading Islam even more. But go on.
Right. So okay. Even though I've never been Muslim, Zahra is my inspiration. Zahra, there you go.
What's that?
That was Moose again.
Moose,
she's really. This is great. Like a very, very active patron. Thank you very much again for joining in.
I'm hoping
to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
I want to get in touch with more. Oh my God! I just saw myself picking my teeth on. Oh, fuck this. Sorry, guys.
Can we link to your Facebook in the description?
It's all good.
Or no?
Yeah. You can link my Facebook. No, my Facebook is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So
once the in the YouTube version, not the live version, but once this becomes once we post the audio version of this on our YouTube and also on the podcast, all the links that is mentioned is going to be in the description. But go on, Ali.
James is saying fuck Twitter. Shahroz is asking Ali, what are some of the metal bands that you like? I you know what? It's the metal ones. I loved Metallica, Megadeth before Dave Mustaine went fucking apeshit. I grew up doing Slayer covers with my band, Sepultura. I love Napalm Death. A lot of these like bands are really great. The newer ones,
I'm not a rock metal fan. I'm more of R&B. So if anybody knows good clubs and free entries for R&B clubs, please let me know.
Yeah. This is a generational thing.
All right.
I was like, I grew up. So secular jihadists in Jerusalem, yes. So I guess we have some support for that.
People are really liking the Jerusalem idea. Let us know if we
100 foreskins from the Philistines. I thought it was 400 in the Old Testament.
How about this, Ali? If we hit 1,000 patrons, we go to the
the center of where everything starts from.
Yes.
Started from. We'll even do one.
Can they also sponsor my ticket? Can they also sponsor my ticket because I get paid for this? In all seriousness, I would like to do a week again in like Israel and then go and do fun stuff, go to the Dead Sea and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. Moose is asking, Ali, what's the name of your band? It's actually Dead Shire. The song was called Ptolemy. I'm typing that into the chat window so you can check it out. Lois, hi, how are you? Lois was here in Toronto, and I only met her. We were here for dinner, and it was really loud, and we couldn't talk too much. But Lois, I want to see you again. But anyway,
Lois is inviting me to Calgary to go speak in Calgary.
Yeah, you should go. I've been there like a whole bunch of times. I love it there. Yeah. It's an amazing place, and then it's beautiful.
By the way, if anybody else is interested in having me as a speaker in their events, or Ali, like reach out to us, like tweet at us something.
Yeah, and Lois, Ali, your book is the first book our new book club read. Everyone loved it. Thank you, Lois, as always. Your scream, it was 200 foreskins. Yes, it was. And I think we're almost done. Science and religion cannot coexist. Zara,
that's a question for me. Science and religion cannot coexist. I think it can only exist to a certain. It's selective existence. It's what you want to exist. Because I was reading Yuval Noah Harari's book on Homo Deus, and he has this section on death, immortality, and science and technology, and it was really good. And that actually opened up my mind as well. That how people all these tech companies are trying to make people immortal, but that will never be the case. So what they're trying to do is expand expand the death rate. So not the death rate, the age. What is that thing called? Life expectancy. Sorry, I was like, something's there.
Yeah.
So they're trying to. Yeah, and they're trying to expand it, and that was really good. And they're like, even though people feel like it's going against God's will, which it is, right? Like any of this, like heart transplants or making organs, bio-organs or anything. But, all the Muslims will play, like even contraception, like even things like contraception, and that's science as well. People are so against it. I think it's very selective. It can exist, but it is selective, because when I was taught evolution, it was a half an hour class. I'm now doing more research on Richard Dawkins' evolutionary biology lectures. But it was a half an hour class saying this was what evolution is, because we're meant to teach you, but God created all of us.
That was a French.
By the way, Zara, we have an entire episode on whether religion and science are compatible.
I was just gonna say,
with Jerry Coyne. Right, so
interesting.
Yeah, so you should.
Yeah, and he's it's actually one of the most fun episodes that we've ever done.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Except for this one. Except for this one.
Yeah.
I saw my eyes light up, and I'm like, "What? No."
Actually, to that point, Mars Chung is saying you're a badass, Zara.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And there was a clarification, and the Luis clarified your scream means you're hilarious. That's what it means.
Your scream, yeah. Okay. So. And speaking of clarifications, we have more clarification on the foreskins. It was actually in the Old Testament. It was 100 foreskins was the price, but David bought 200.
Yeah, he was like, I could do better.
Solved.
Yeah, I could. No. I remember that. He said I could do better. Like, you want 100? I'll give you 200.
And finally, James is suggesting that I should check out Orphan Land and Spider God. Those are metal bands. I will check it out. That's pretty cool. So I hadn't even heard of Spider God. I'll check that out. So
all right.
It's great.
Can you, before we end this, one more reminder, where can people find you, Zara?
It's Zara space KAY on Facebook.
Right.
I don't accept random friend requests, but I do reply to messages.
All right, and your name is technically Zahra, right? Like the has you.
I don't like the H.
You don't like it.
I don't like the H. So my manager called me Zahra, and I'm like, it's Zara, okay? It's a silent H, and I can decide that.
All right, guys.
Thank you, people. Thank you, Mars, Moose, Lewis, Special Generalist, James, Mars.
I just have one last message.
Oh, yeah, go
you guys are welcome, all of you.
Oh, yeah.
I meant
Yes, of course.
I'm a delight to be around. So.
Well, you are.
Yeah. Hey, listen. So I guess, we'll do this in reverse.
I'm actually considering coming to Vancouver for the Penguin philosophy thing. I'm thinking about it.
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
When is that, Armin? Which one is it?
March, yes.
17th.
March
17th or 14th.
I want to come to that. Which one is that again?
March 17th is about science. It's more scientific related. Actually, you should be a speaker on that.
No. I'm just curious which one it was. What is
It's basically science theme, and it's gonna have here. You guys are putting me on the spot. I'm gonna get fired. Here, let me.
No, it's good. You're promoting it. This is good. Yeah. Promote Penguin.
Let me bring out March. So, hey, if you're coming to Vancouver, maybe we could do a recording while you're here.
Yeah. I'll let you know. Only because I'm planning to go to London and I don't have enough annual leave. I'm going to talk to my manager.
And you're coming to Vancouver to meet the people that you like they're here as well. So that would be good, right? Like the main people that you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just stalling so I could load this. That's what.
Yeah. Go for it.
I'm friends with Eric Weinstein on Instagram.
So I think Michael.
We chat.
Michael. Yeah. So it's called the Day of Discovery, March 17th. I'm
only coming. Let's be fair. I'm only coming because Sam Harris is there. So next week when you have this talk, and go like, that little girl from Australia who wants to take photos.
Well, I mean, okay, but speakers might be updated, so look out for that. Like, keep looking for that. Okay.
So, but what's it called? A Day of Discovery.
Day of Discovery. Yes.
All right. Cool. Okay, Sans. Zara, thank you so much for being on. This was a blast.
Thank you. This was fun. It was really nice going into the Shiism and then talking about me, which was nice. And
it was a co-educational. It was like a co-educational majlis without the mourning and the crying and everything.
Thank you. And for people who don't know what a majlis is, it is a lecture.
Just a lecture. Yeah, but this is more of a discussion.
And we didn't start hitting our chests yet.
Yeah, we do.
We got a Facebook comment here. If it loads, sorry, I have some. Oh no. Okay, no, you read it. Okay, never mind. So James was worried that if you're not going to read the comments, but yeah, we did. All right, that was good. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the live stream. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you next time.
The secular jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadist.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.